o'clock hour of BPR Live from the library. We'll start with a show with the number 2 Democrat in the House of Representatives, Democratic Whip Katherine Clark, on what she's called the 6 months of chaos under Republican leadership, the Democratic strategy to get the Epstein files released, and the future of her unpopular party.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Speaking of unpopular, new polling suggests the Democrats are still in the wilderness with the American people, soul-searching but not connecting with everyday people. Who do you think should fill the vacuum on the left? What's the future of the party, and how can it refocus? Call or text next on the 11 o'clock hour at BPR on GBH and NEPM, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. The Gaza Health Ministry says more than 60,000 Palestinians have been killed in the 21 months of war between Israel and Hamas. The latest figures come as criticism of Israel grows amid the spread of starvation in Gaza. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports many Israelis dismiss the reports of starvation as Hamas propaganda.
That rhetoric starts at the top with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and military officials who say there is no starvation and the images coming out of Gaza are fake news. That is upsetting to 65-year-old Israeli peace activist Marjorie Morgan.
I'm ashamed of what we're doing. We, of all people, should not be starving millions of people just down the road. It's a war crime.
Morgan says the Israeli media, for the most part, doesn't cover the starvation.
It's shocking that people don't want to know about it, don't want to hear about it, don't want to see it. It's not on TV. We're living in a bubble. The 3 main news stations never cover it.
Morgan says most Israelis are living in a bubble. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
A federal appeals panel has issued a ruling that weakens federal voting rights protections in 7 states for voters with disabilities and those with limited proficiency in English. NPR's Anzi Luong reports it's the latest court ruling that may end up curtailing enforcement of the Voting Rights Act across the country.
An immigrant advocacy group called Arkansas United sued over a law in the southern state that bans a person from helping more than 6 voters cast their ballots. A part of the Voting Rights Act, known as Section 208, generally allows voters who need help because of a disability or inability to read or write to get help from a person of their choice. A federal judge ruled the Arkansas law violated the Voting Rights Act. But after an appeal by Republican state officials, a panel of the 8th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has now found that private individuals and groups like Arkansas United do not have the right to sue under this section of the Voting Rights Act. Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court extended a pause on a similar ruling about a different Voting Rights Act section. The High Court is expected to be asked soon to take up a full review of that ruling. Anzi Luong, NPR News.
Lawyers for the accomplice of the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein is asking the Supreme Court to overturn her conviction. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of sex trafficking in New York. Epstein had pleaded guilty in Florida, an agreement that said his potential co-conspirators would not be charged. Former prosecutor Mitchell Ebner tells NPR's Morning Edition the court is being asked to throw out the New York case because of agreement in Florida.
It is unusual for co-conspirators to be granted immunity, and it's even more unusual for unnamed co-conspirators to be granted immunity. And this thing was a mess, and it is highly unusual.
He said the Supreme Court may decide not to consider the case. At Let's Check on Wall Street, the Dow is down 152 points. This is NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. New York Times reporting that Harvard University is open to shelling out $500 million to settle its month-long battle with the Trump administration. The potential deal is based on interviews with 4 unnamed sources familiar with the negotiations, and it comes after Columbia University agreed to pay the federal government over $220 million in order to reinstate its federal grants and end investigations. President Trump has been pushing for Harvard to pay more than Columbia throughout the discussions. The timing of a potential deal is also unclear. And Massachusetts pizza shops may soon be giving drivers from Connecticut some dirty looks. The Nutmeg State is offering a new specialty license plate, anointing itself instead as the pizza capital of the United States. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont says the plate fees will benefit the state's largest food bank, which needs the dough to help offset federal funding cuts.
This license plate is just one way to do it. It's got my favorite. It's got a pepperoni pizza on it. That's not so bad. And sign up. That money that you can click and go right to Food Share and help people in need.
Goes right to Frank Pepe. The license plate features a graphic of a slice of pizza and the words, "The Pizza State." In sports, Red Sox Twins play Game 2 of their 3-game series tonight in Minnesota. In the forecast, heat advisory continues through sundown tomorrow. Today will be hotter than yesterday, temps in the 90s. Passing clouds, upper 60s overnight. We are already at 90 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Eric and Wendy Schmidt through the Schmidt Family Foundation, working toward a healthy, resilient, secure world for all. On the web at theschmidt.org. This is NPR.
Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NEPM. Thank you. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. It is really nice and cool here in the library, even though it's 90 degrees outside. Good morning, Jim.
Right. Marjorie's trying to say, even if you're not crazy about the show, there's free air conditioning.
Exactly.
So come on by. Towards the end of last week, House Speaker Mike Johnson sent Congress home for summer break. But before heading home, House Democrats held a press conference. First to speak, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who spent his time attacking Republicans for the so-called Big Beautiful Bill, stripping health care coverage from millions and food from the most vulnerable in America. Here's how the New York Times described what happened next. Quote, he ceded the lectern to Representative Katherine Clark of Massachusetts, the number 2 Democrat, who made a jarring pivot to a different topic.
Instead of standing up for kids, for families, instead of standing on the side of transparency and accountability, Republicans are running away, all to avoid the release of the Epstein client list, all to cover up for pedophiles.
We're joined now live at the library desk by Congresswoman Katherine Clark, representing the 5th Congressional District. As I said, she's a Democratic whip, which means she's the number 2 Democrat in the House. Congresswoman, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, nice to be back.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in, Congresswoman. So we just heard you talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, this is not calm down. It's been going. This is the third week of, at least the third week of talking about this, dividing some in the president's party and maybe hurting the president. Do you think it's helping the Democrats?
You know, it was interesting. The New York Times said it was a jarring change of topics, but the whole thing is jarring. You know, this is something that Trump has fostered, this conspiracy theory, has said he was going to release these files. But there is a theme to what Donald Trump does, and that is protect the powerful and the elite and himself. And that is what we are seeing once again, whether it's the big ugly law or whether it is, you know, going back and betraying his promise to release these files. Who is he protecting, and why are they covering up? And so this isn't a matter of do Democrats benefit by this. It is very much a reflection of his obsession with protecting the elites, whether it's his tax bill and cutting Medicaid and food programs and veterans benefits in public schools to give the very wealthy a tax break they don't need and won't notice, or whether it's going back on his promise to release what's in the Epstein files.
You know what the Republicans say, that why didn't Joe Biden release the files?
Well, listen, back in 2019, in the very first Trump administration, where he put Secretary Acosta in place as the Secretary of Labor, who was the very person who gave a sweetheart deal to Jeffrey Epstein. I certainly raised that.
As the U.S. Attorney down in there.
As the U.S. Attorney. I mean, this was an incredible, with a 50-page indictment, over 30 minor children involved, and he got jail time where 6 days out of the week, he had work release, got picked up by a driver, and taken out of jail to go live his life. And that person was put in charge of the human trafficking department that's run out of the labor and had an 80% cut to it. And so we asked a lot of questions of him, and it actually led to him resigning. But this has been an ongoing theme, but it's about transparency. And it's about betrayal of the promises that Donald Trump made. And the fundamental one was to reduce cost of living, which he has done just the opposite.
I want to get to the broken promises, at least according to you. But before we do, you say, who is he protecting? My experience, arm's length with Trump, is he really cares about nobody but himself. I'm not saying his supporters he won't give tax breaks to. The conclusion I think both of us reach is the only reason he's not releasing these is because he is implicated in some fashion, not just mentioned in the Epstein files, as his attorney general told him in May, even though he denies that he was told. Do you share that perception that he's protecting himself?
Yeah, I have no idea what's in those files. I really don't. But it does seem to be the way that he operates. It is all about enriching himself, protecting himself, protecting his image. And so this is, part of what we saw from the very first days of his presidency, the very first day when he was inaugurated. And I sat on that stage and watched the richest people in the world gather in the front row. And everything has been aimed towards them, enriching Donald Trump himself and enriching those who already have great wealth, full stop. And this is just part of that pattern.
Katherine Clark, I was really heartened by the fact that every poll I saw on the big, beautiful bill, or as you call the big, ugly law, showed 2-1 the American people were against it, and particularly happy because Marjorie talks all the time correctly about how so much of the electorate is Fox News obsessed. They don't even hear stories about this. So I naturally concluded that if you oppose the signature piece of legislation by 2-1 of the Republican, you're obviously ready to cast all those people aside. But you've seen the Wall Street Journal poll, worst numbers for the Democratic Party in 35 years, even more troubling. On all the issues where they say Trump is doing a horrible job, including deportation, immigration, they still prefer the Republicans by significant margins. What's wrong with this picture? How did you get into the mess that you and your fellow Democrats have found yourself in?
Listen, we're also seeing Donald Trump's economic numbers, which has been really his strength, along with immigration. But on the economy, he's in a free fall. And so we're not saying, everything looks rosy for Democrats, but that we've got work to do. And we have to make that connection, go to where people are, listen to them, and explain exactly what this bill does to them and their families and their communities.
But the point I was trying to make, I would argue the Democrats appear to be in free fall too, to use your term. The American people seem to know how bad it is, maybe not every detail, by evidenced by that poll I mentioned. So why is none of that accruing to the party that has been relentlessly criticizing? Is it maybe because they don't think the Democrats have a better idea? All they do is criticize what they deem to be inappropriate, bad ideas from Donald Trump?
Yeah, and that's exactly why this August we are going out with our affirmative message and having the conversation with the American people. We will do the high contrast with Donald Trump in this bill, but also let them know that we firmly believe you deserve better. You deserve better than you're getting. They think the system's rigged against them because the system is rigged against them. So whether we're talking about lowering the costs of living, whether we are talking about ending corruption in government, we have to be specific and relay that vision. So we're going to do both. We're going to explain that bill and how bad it is, and we're not just going to do that in blue parts of the country. We're taking that to very Republican parts, rural parts of the country. I was just in rural Mississippi about a month ago, touring rural hospitals there, 300 of which are going to close as these Medicaid cuts kick in. A quarter of all nursing homes, starting and predominantly in rural America, will close. And, having those conversations about what this means with people where they are. We're not going to win a lot of seats in Mississippi, but if we want to change people's minds about what Democrats are fighting for, we have to have those conversations across the country.
We're talking to Massachusetts Congresswoman Katherine Clark, number 2 Democrat in the House of Representatives.
But one of the things I think that does hurt Democrats a lot, a lot of us, including myself, disagree with almost everything Donald Trump has done, but he's done a lot of it. He hasn't done much in the economy, but he's gone after the most powerful law firms in the country, got a lot of them to capitulate. He's gone after the most powerful colleges and universities, got them to capitulate. Harvard may be about to capitulate too. He's gone after he got a pretty good deal with the tariffs that were much ridiculed. With Europe, with the 15%, the EU kind of bent in knee. They had this Project 2025 scoped out for years going into his presidency, and they are following through on whether it's Department of Justice or whatever it is. And the Democrats talk about things like childcare, but they don't do anything. It's been 40 years we're going to fix childcare. 40 years since my kids were little to fix childcare. And that's the sense is he gets stuff done, and the Democrats talk and don't achieve.
Yeah, listen, if you're willing to put out illegal tariffs and you can get buy-in to it and you consider that getting stuff done, that's breaking the law and the Constitution. But, we also have to remain vigilant in calling that out.
Yeah.
And what are these tariff deals? They're always big on headlines, very light on details. But who is going to pay are the American people. And it's going to start with increased prices at back to school. We're going to see it in clothes. We're going to see it in shoes. We're going to see it in electronics. And that is going to get worse as we go through the year. And the estimates from the Yale Budget Lab and other people who are tracking this is that we are of increases between 20 to 30% on clothes and shoes by next spring, by tariffs that have already been put in place. I'm hearing from small businesses throughout my district and throughout the country who feel like they are already over. They're just waiting to January because they had to make purchases for the holidays in the height of the tariff chaos. So we can't, getting stuff done, he is taking away so much from the American people when they are shouting at us, we are not making it. 60% of households right now, 60% cannot afford the basics for the family. Over 50%, almost 55% are saying we're going to have to cut back on our food budget to buy school supplies. Getting stuff done. And yes, we are seeing people bend the knee. Law firms, corporations, universities.
Are you worried about Harvard? What you read in the New York Times this morning?
I'm worried about Harvard and all of the universities and the attacks on journalism and public radio.
Can you make a case in any situation that any major institution, law firm, university, media company, that any institution should ever cut a deal with Donald Trump?
I certainly, in an ideal world, I wouldn't. But I also want Harvard and other institutions to continue the research that they're doing, not to lose every single lab to somewhere else. And here in Massachusetts, not only do they create that pipeline of breakthrough medical discoveries, it is a part of our economy. People don't move here for our low cost of housing or our phenomenal weather. They move here because we are the best in the world at taking research out of the lab and putting it into the marketplace. So there's a whole consideration. When we want people to hold the ground, we have to be there and support them against this administration.
One of the things we hear from almost all the Democrats with whom we speak is we've got to be a big tent kind of thing. We have to enlarge. We have to be tolerant of people who don't agree with every dogmatic kind of thing. The most talked about young Democrat in America is Mamdani, who obviously is, as of the moment, the front runner to be the next mayor of New York City. And your leadership colleague, who obviously represents New York City, Hakeem Jeffries, has met with him but has failed to endorse him. Doesn't that send a message to young Democrats that you have to be a particular kind of Democrat to be allowed to be in this inner circle? I mean, doesn't that send the wrong message? Why not endorse him as fast as you can?
Well, listen, I can't speak to New York mayoral policies and endorsement, but I can tell you what his campaign says to me. He has been absolutely focused on cost of living, housing, transportation, groceries, and he did it in a very fresh way. He was out in neighborhoods using video, using social media very skillfully, but delivering that message that I see that you feel you're not making it and I'm going to do something about it. That is the Democratic message.
If he called you as the number 2 Democrat, Mondami, and said, I'd like your endorsement, would you endorse him?
I am not stepping into New York mayoral politics.
If he called you wouldn't endorse him?
I don't endorse mayors in my own district, but that's not the point. What I would say is I think you've run a great campaign because you are talking about the issues that matter to people. And that's the endorsement I give his campaign because I think he is touching on something. Can he do it all? Do I approve of everything he said in past posts? No. But his message is the one that we have to have and the conversation we have to have with people in New York City and across this country. How are you going to make it? You deserve better than you're getting.
The thing I assume you're referring to without saying it is his comments about Israel. Is that what you're referring? Okay, so we've talked a lot. We had the guy who wrote the piece from Brown University the other day, Omer Bertov, who wrote the piece, the headline of which from the time, I'm a genocide scholar, I know it when I see it. We have seen these starvation images that are just, and you have a pretty powerful tweet saying you're horrified by starvation in Gaza. And while a lot of criticism goes to Trump, who all of a sudden apparently got religion yesterday, even though he hasn't done anything, all he said it, Joe Biden was sending a lot of weaponry there too, which helped contribute to what are reported, admittedly, by the Palestinian authorities, 60,000 deaths. What's your prescription here, and what are the Democrats doing to make sure those people don't starve to death?
Yeah, listen, this is outrageous. This is absolutely horrifying what we are seeing, and we have to do everything possible. And if the Trump administration will work with us, and we certainly will implore them to, we have to get aid to these people. I have had discussions with the World Food Program, with others who know how to deliver this aid. It is a very dangerous place to deliver aid because starving, desperate people mob trucks, but they don't deserve to be shot when they're trying to get food for their family. We have to look at the Gaza Humanitarian Fund and understand what are the policies there? Who is funding this? How can we do better than having 4 delivery sites where people are getting routinely shot?
Should Democrats be more critical of Netanyahu and his behavior?
And should we be supplying military equipment to Israel?
I think that question is really about how do we use our leverage? Israel is an ally. They do receive incredible aid from us. So at this moment, we have to demand that they have answers for this. How do we securely get food to these people, and how do we do it quickly? I think we've seen some progress in the last few days, and we need far more. There are 2 million people there. We cannot airdrop our way out of this. We have to have safe passage for those trucks.
But should we be supplying them military weaponry while they're not doing it?
Well, let's use every leverage point that we have to quickly, jump to that. In a way, skips over the very real steps of what we need to do in the next few days. It's not like we have military defense equipment that is going to be withheld in the next days or weeks.
Yeah.
This is a humanitarian crisis that needs us to use our allyship and our deep friendship with Israel to say you have to do better. And we have to too as an administration. There are many aid groups who are just waiting to help. It is a complicated situation of delivery, and I understand that, but we cannot stand by and not do every single thing we can to try and make this better.
Congresswoman, we only have a minute or two left here. Marjorie mentioned Project 2025 before, and even if you like none of the elements, the brilliance of essentially constructing the whole agenda for Trump before he even took office, I think is unparalleled and brilliant. Horrible, but brilliant. Are the Democrats creating a Project 2027, a Project 2029? Are they trying to do exactly what he has done from his perspective so successfully?
Yes, and we have to. And listen, we sounded the alarm around Project 2025, and you saw it. You saw Trump convince people that that wasn't real and that we were making that up and that Democrats were being alarmists. He knew nothing about it. It has been the blueprint, and he put the people who wrote it in powerful positions, and they are enacting it. And a lot of it is illegal and unconstitutional, but that has not slowed the roll. So we also have to have not just the same rhetorical place for people, but actually have the policies and backup and a vision for what we will do when we get the gavels back in our hands.
30 seconds. How's your stress level? I mean, this is, we knew you when you were a lowly state legislator here. I'm serious. How's your stress level as a human?
It's not great. It's not great. But, on the other hand, I think it is easier in some ways to have the great privilege, and I do consider it a great privilege, to be in the House and to be in the arena every day and to see the fight that is going on across this country to resist this and to tell the American people it doesn't have to be this way. There is hope out there. We can envision something far better, and that's what Democrats are going to deliver.
Thanks for your time, Congresswoman.
Congresswoman,
it's really good to see you.
Thank you very much for taking the time
much.
to come in. We've been speaking with Democratic Whip, Massachusetts Congresswoman Katherine Clark, and we very much appreciate her taking the time to come down to the library. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to open the lines to get your thoughts on the Democratic strategy 6 months into the Trump administration. The party has wildly low approval ratings, especially with young people, but and the very demographic they try so hard to win with Kamala Harris. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. The number to reach us at is 877-301-8970. How are the Democrats doing, and how can they change if they need to? BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, the play The Understudy is a comedy ultimately about people in the theater world who are underappreciated, as the title suggests. Director Paula Plum, a very much appreciated theater legend, joins us for an overview. Plus, the rise and fall of privacy. Are our days of discretion dead? It's the subject of sociologist Tiffany Jenkins' new book. That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Commonwealth Shakespeare Company, presenting As You Like It, this summer's free Shakespeare on the Boston Common. Shakespeare's lush romantic comedy celebrating the joys and follies of human nature, July 23rd through August 10th. comshakes.org. And Morningside Music Bridge, returning to Boston. The summer program shines a spotlight on young classical musicians from around the world, with concerts now through August 1st at New England Conservatory. mmb.international.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. The lines are open. Give us a buzz or a text, 877-301-8970. We just heard from the number 2 ranking Democrat in the House of Representatives. Now I want to hear from you. What do you make of the Democratic Party's strategy over the past few months? If the Wall Street Journal's polling is to believe, they're less popular than ever with the American people, less popular than Trump and the Republicans. 6 months in the Trump second term, who do you think should step into the vacuum left by the Kamala Harris loss? Is there anyone who you think could unite such a fractured party? And by the way, even if you're a Trump supporter, tell us who you think is the Democrat you fear most, and tell us honestly if you're enjoying this party infighting as much as the left is loving the MAGA base implode. over Epstein. The number's 877-301-8097. You don't even know this. Do you have a favorite Democrat who you think could lead the party out of these pathetic poll numbers? Is there somebody?
I don't know. We had a... Well, never mind.
No, we don't.
I was going to say
that was an off-the-record discussion with a leading Democrat.
Oh, we did, but
thank you for that.
That was he had some uncontroversial things to say.
Yes,
and some controversial things. So I'll shut up about that. But
good.
You know, I've said before that I think Chris Murphy from Connecticut is doing a pretty good job. I mean, he's been all over the place. United States Senator. I think Andy Bashir, who is a Democrat from Kentucky.
Oh, here we go again.
It's a red state.
Marjorie knows nothing about Andy Bashir except he's a Democratic from a red state. That's a big deal.
Well, he looks like a Boy Scout. Wes Moore from Maryland. A lot of people think is a very charismatic leader. So I don't know. A lot of people like Gretchen Whitmer out in Michigan. What do you think?
Chuck Schumer. I think Chuck Schumer should be the...
I don't think
okay, 8-7...
Well, that's one of the problems, I think, with the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I agree.
What do they call it now? The gerontocracy? The people that are really quite...
Well, the House leadership is fairly young with Hakeem Jeffries and Katherine Clark.
Right.
The Senate is a little rather old.
But
877-301-8097. Also, how do they reverse these numbers? The question we asked Congresswoman Clark, you would think when the support for the big, beautiful bill, the horrible reconciliation thing, are so low, 2-to-1 opposed, that would translate, I would think, automatically to support for the Democratic alternative. But that Wall Street Journal poll is really, really concerning if people are not happy about the GOP Trump administration. Let's go.
Hold on. Well, why don't you tell me who's going to lead the Democratic Party?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, that's a good answer.
Michelle Obama is who I would choose to lead the Democratic Party.
I don't think that's going to happen.
So far, she hasn't done. Well, you don't know that, do you?
Yes, I do know that.
I don't think you do.
That will never happen.
Okay.
Cabal in... Is
not
that
cabal.
Cabal cable? I'm not sure how to say it. I'm sorry.
Oh boy!
Somebody's calling.
I'm not going to help her. I know this woman.
Apologies.
I'm not going to help her.
Okay. How do you
try
say
it one more time?
How do you say your first name?
Cabal.
Cabal. I'm sorry, Cabal.
Who knows a little bit about organizing, by the way?
Okay. So what do you think, Cabal?
Hey, Cabal,
you're
how
a buddy
are you?
of Jim's. Okay.
No, I know her, but go ahead.
All right. Well, the poll, while it is concerning, I don't believe that it is the actual temperature of the problem of the issue. You know, I mean, for one thing, Kamala Harris had 107 days to organize. And the fact that she got the votes that she did is remarkable, but we also had a majority of people stay home that were in the Democratic Party. So the issue is to bring the Democratic Party back into the fold. But the way that we do that is to really discuss the issues. And something that I think is very troubling is that the fact that the federal minimum wage hasn't been raised since 2009.
Was it $7.25?
It's still $7.25 federally. That is correct. And that is just disgusting in this world that we live in. That is just incredibly getting more and more expensive, and people are being left out. So I think that we really have to have really hard conversations and take a stance on the issues of affordability and stop walking the center and truly bring back the people that feel forgotten, which is a lot of people, and talk about single payer, talk about the issues of affordability, talk about housing, talk about climate. All of those things are winning issues. But you have to talk about them in a way that's actually not grandstanding against people, but listening and bringing their ideas into the fold and fighting for them.
Can I guess that you're a big Mamdani fan?
I'm a huge Mamdani fan. Huge.
Yeah. Okay, I figured.
I'm going to be going to New York this fall. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Great.
But as I was saying before to the Congresswoman, I think one of the issues is the Democrats talk a lot about those issues. Well, they didn't really talk enough about housing. During the Biden administration, we were talking about the people struggling. We heard about
biggest climate change law in the history of the country.
That's right. But in terms of the
That doesn't count?
Yes, it does count. And unfortunately, the Trump administration has cut it to shreds within 6 months, which is what I was trying to say to the Congresswoman, that Biden did this great thing and that gets dumped by
How about
Trump
the Affordable Care Act? That doesn't count either?
Can I finish my
Of course
question,
you can,
please?
yeah.
I think one of the issues for the Democrats is that you promise you're going to do child care, you promise you're going to do housing, you promise you're going to do A, B, C, and D, and people get revved up and excited about it, and then it doesn't happen. As I said to the Congresswoman, we've been talking about child care for 40 years, and we are nowhere close. And I think that's one of the frustrations people have. There seems to be a sense of the Democrats kind of saying, well, okay, the status quo is the status quo, and that's what we got.
I don't agree with that. Thanks for your call. Good luck out there. Nice to hear from you.
Okay, you would agree with that.
Well, because you cherry-picked. As I said, a major healthcare reform in United States history, major climate reform in U.S. history. You're right about housing. You're right about whatever else, child care. But on a couple of issues that matter a lot to you, they did a lot.
But I think the number one issue, I think, for people is they can't afford to live.
Yeah.
You know, between rent and health care.
Affordable Care Act helped with that.
The Affordable Care Act helped with that. And Donald Trump has just decimated that,
Yes.
too. I mean, that's one of the horrible things is that they outmaneuver us.
There's no question about. Well, the point, you say this every
I don't
day,
even
by the
say
way,
us.
off the air.
I'm not a Democrat, by the way.
You mean the resistance, for lack of it, the people who don't like what he's doing. Let me just say, you say every morning, that's the only reason I asked Katherine Clark this. You are so right. The Project 2025 thing is so obvious.
Brilliant.
The fact that nobody has done it like this before, essentially, it's the blueprint for this administration. As Katherine Clark said, he said, I don't know any of those people, even though they all worked for him in the first campaign. I don't know anything about this. Well, they not only know everything about it, they've implemented everything, and that's why he's been able to do so fast in the first 6 months, because that agenda was there in place. They didn't have to start from scratch. And if you're a Democrat, I hope you're urging your leaders to do the same.
Okay, we're going to talk about this until the top of the hour. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library. We're also on NEPM up in Western Mass. The number to reach us at is 877-301-8970. We are here at the Boston Public Library, and we're talking about what Democrats could be doing if they want to succeed in 2026 and beyond. 877-301-8970.
As sea levels rise due to climate change, more and more coastal communities will cope with flooding. In the Netherlands, one dairy farm has come up with a solution: floating.
We go up and down with the tide, so we always can keep on producing fresh, healthy food.
That story and other global news next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you. And Cornerstone at Canton, an assisted living community with services designed to help seniors age in place, offering respite and trial stay options to help during recovery or when exploring new living arrangements. More at cornerstonecanton.com. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Knowing Nature, Stories of the Boreal Forest. Captivating photos and interactive displays take visitors inside a vast wilderness. On view this summer. PEM.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim Browdy, Marjorie Egan, live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. And lines are open. You can call or text at 877-301-8970. We just spoke to the number 2 Democrat in the House of Representatives. She talked about their strategy. What do you think about why the Democrats are in the hole like they are? The polling numbers in the Wall Street Journal, lowest ratings for the Democrats in 35 years. How do they crawl out of the hole? Who is the leader who you think can help them crawl out of the hole? 877-301-8970. Or do you want them to stay in the hole?
Listen to Ronnie in Danvers. I guess you could say Ronnie in Danvers has had it.
What do you say?
He says, I can't stand the Dems. I used to be a Dem until they screwed over Bernie. Then I was an independent. Now I'm a full-blown communist after watching their apathy and failure to meaningfully stop fascism and improve literally anything. That's Ronnie in Danvers, who can't take anymore. And you don't like this, Jen, when I criticize the schools, but there's a lack of
I didn't say you
increasing
shouldn't
lack of
criticize the
faith
schools.
in the public schools in America.
Yeah.
And the Democrats are just defending the status quo. It's defending the status quo. It's a problem when a whole swath of Americans can't read. These kids can't read, and they need to.
No, I agree with you. It's far better what Trump is doing with the schools, taking over
But again,
higher education.
But that's not the point.
Well,
you keep
stopping harsh shows.
You keep going back to Trump.
Stopping exactly. I would say stopping atrocities is an important first step.
He just won. And I think the Democrats do not want to address the fact at all in this autopsy they're doing about why they lost.
Yeah.
They don't want to address the fact that Biden was too long
This
staying in.
is true, by the way. The DNC is doing this autopsy, as Marty said. They're allegedly not addressing any of that.
And someone mentioned Kamala Harris before, and that maybe she wasn't the best choice. And people may recall that she did not do very well when she ran for president. People did not find her an appealing candidate. Obviously, she didn't have enough time, and she was.
I thought she did a pretty good campaign considering her shelling out 100 days.
But again, she was defending the status quo of Joe Biden. When she was asked to differentiate herself, she said nothing. So that's the problem.
Let's go to Tom in Rhode Island. You are next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hello. Yes, I am a progressive, and I think the Democrats are exactly where they need to be based on their awful policies. They are a center party. They have no actual plans, as proven by the interview with your Congresswoman, who could not commit to anything, just Trump is bad. And outside of a global pandemic, the Republicans have trounced the Democrats. Why? Because they actually have actions. They may not be right actions, but they have actions.
I think that's sort of Marjorie's take on this, too.
I don't know about you, Tom, but I am so frightened by everything that's happened, that he's been able to do so fast. And that capitulation is going on all across the country from the most powerful people. It's really kind of crazy.
Who do you like in the party who you think is not not weak or whatever? I don't know what adjective you use. Who are leaders that you would like to see as leaders? Tom.
Unfortunately, it's really difficult with how the Democrats are showing right now. You have even AOC starting to crumble on her position as she looks for power. They're all beholden to AIPAC and other special interests, and will gladly take Elon Musk's money once he decides to come back.
Wow. AIPAC is a primary pro-Israel lobby group in Washington. Hey, Tom, thank you for your call. We're sorry you're as disgusted as you are, but I'm glad you called.
We've been deluged with texts this morning about AIPAC.
Yeah. 877-301-89. Let me tell you, I think one of the things Democrats could do is focus a lot on this nightmare in Gaza and show they care about human rights. They're willing to take on an ally, Netanyahu, even as Katherine Clark says is an important ally, which it is. But I think voicing displeasure with his leadership, I think, is a really important thing to regain confidence of voters, at least I think.
Lynn in Connecticut.
Hi,
Thank
Lynn.
you for calling.
Hi.
Hello, first-time caller.
Love that.
I just want to say that I'm old enough to remember when people that made a lot of money paid more in taxes.
That's gone well.
And I think the problem with the Democrats is they have wonderful ideas, but people without a lot of money are afraid they're going to have to pay for it all. I think they have to do some education in regard to all of that.
By the way, that's what's happening in New York City with the business wealthy opposition to Mamdani. But keep in mind, Lynn, you're calling into a state, Massachusetts, where by a modest majority, but a majority nevertheless, the people of Massachusetts a few years ago voted to impose a 4% surtax on people who make more than $1 million a year. So there's at least one electorate that subscribes to that. Lynn, thanks for the call. We appreciate it.
Here's an interesting text. Democrats think too much. They don't feel enough. Trump's success is that he expresses people's anger. People don't want their problem solved. Well, I think they probably do. But this texture says people don't want their problem solved. They want someone to express their anger, someone to be listened to them and be fighting for them. Democrats do not have fighters.
Yeah, by the way, I agree with, I don't agree with, I don't know about the no fighter thing. I totally agree. He expresses their rage. Do you think any of his solidarity with low and moderate income working class people is at all heartfelt or total fraudulent?
No, I think it's total.
He doesn't give a damn about any of these people.
No, and I think
the undereducated.
But the problem again is Republicans quite brilliantly have made it so the impact of a lot of these Medicaid cuts will not come till after the 2026 elections, and that's really going to be a problem. I think because the messaging for the Democrats has been really tough about in the past. Maybe they'll get better.
But the people get, I mean, I hate to cite for the third time today, all those polls show they hate the big, beautiful law.
But again,
so they get it.
When you looked at polls before Trump was reelected, you looked at polls saying, where are you on climate change? They were close to the Democrats. Where are you on assault weapons and guns? They were close with the Democrats. Where are you on all these other issues? They were all with the Democrats. They agree with the Democrats' positions, and yet they elected Donald Trump. So there's a disconnect there.
There appears to be.
Susan in Groveland. Oh, Sean in Groveland, sorry.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
Pleasure.
So are either of you familiar with a Democrat running for Congress in Illinois? She's only 26 years old, a little bit older than me. Kat Abu-Ghazaleh.
I saw, by the way, Sean, I saw her. I was talking to Katherine Clark off the air about her. I saw her. She made her first appearance on CNN yesterday with Jake Tapper. I think she's 25, actually, but regardless, she was fabulous.
Yeah, tell us why you like her,
Sean.
Sean.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just really like young people in politics, especially those who are close in age with me. I just like how relatable it is, and I like what she's doing on social media. And she actually, it looks to be very much a people-powered campaign, and she actually had a comedy night to raise for her campaign, and she actually performed at the comedy night, so I thought that was interesting.
I didn't know that. I thought she really knew her stuff. She had a great feel. I think she's Jen Schakowsky, who I think stepped down, the Democrat. I think at that seat, and you're right, she is 26. Could you say her last name again? Because I couldn't pronounce it. If people want to check her out there, Sean?
Abu-Ghazaleh.
Abu-Ghazaleh. Well, do your best on Google. Her first name is Kat with a K. She's an impressive young person. Sean, thanks for the call.
Listen.
I mean, very Mamdani-like, I should say, in terms of her messaging and her content.
Listen to this from Caitlin in Clinton. The Republicans are like the shooter, and the Democrats are like the Uvalde police. So sad and so true.
Well, that's pathetic.
Okay, it's pathetic.
I'm sorry. I mean, obviously, don't you think it's a little extreme?
Yes, it's extreme, but
Uvalde police basically stood there in fear and allowed people to get murdered.
But I think obviously, it's an extreme. The point is that the Republicans do, and the Democrats.
You mean when they're in power, the Democrats? Okay. All I want to say, I know you haven't enjoyed this when I've said this morning, no one celebrated what Biden did near the end of his term on the Inflation Reduction Act and climate change more than you. The single largest investment in addressing climate change in the history of, I think, the world, but at least the history of the United States.
But the problem is we now know that he was too incapacitated to go out and sell his own message.
You're 100% right.
You look at this guy, and I do not like this guy, giving an hour and a half press conference almost every day.
75 minutes yesterday.
He sells.
You're right.
And you didn't see Biden for months and months and months. The Democrats still don't want to admit that was a problem. They still don't want to admit that it was probably a problem to go so quickly to Kamala Harris instead of having some kind of primary among Democrats that people might have liked more. And by the way, we're getting people have suggestions. They have Josh Shapiro. He's the governor of Pennsylvania. Yep. Pete Buttigieg, who was the labor secretary. Peter Buttigieg.
No, he wasn't. He was the transportation
secretary. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Transportation Secretary. Rahm Emanuel, who was chief of staff for Clinton.
And former mayor of
Chicago.
And a former member of Congress.
A lot of people like David Hogg, who a young man who was a survivor of the Parkland shooting. He was trying to get he was a big deal in the DNC.
He just got kicked out of the vice presidency.
Yeah, he did. Was that a good move, do you think?
I think probably not. I mean, their concern was, for whatever it's worth, which I disagree with their concern about it, is that he wanted to run young people, as Sean did a minute ago, against some of the less energetic, let's say, older Democrats. And so what? I mean, that's what Big Ten thing is. I mean,
Or the Democrats had a problem a couple of weeks ago with some vote they were having when some of the memberships in the Congress, they died, they passed away, or they were too ill to travel.
Yeah. Well, if you're ill, you're ill.
Well, I think maybe, when you look at Chuck Schumer, and you think, wow.
Yeah, I think it's time for him to move on.
Okay.
And by the way, the rumors, which have been not confirmed, is that Ocasio-Cortez is thinking of challenging him in a Democratic primary. I mean, keep in mind, again, Donald Trump is 79. So
I
there's
know.
79 and there's 79.
He's 79.
Obviously.
He's 79, and he's eating cheeseburgers and French
He's
fries
like an
and Diet
Energizer
Coke all day
Bunny
long.
kind of thing.
It is an unbelievable thing. Maybe I should eat more cheeseburgers and French fries.
You know what
I
did?
Of course, he doesn't drink.
I didn't tell you this. Yesterday, I talked on the
Maybe
air
I
for our
should give
two
up
more
my planner's
things.
punches on vacation.
I don't think that's happening. So what was I saying? Yesterday I ridiculed him for the windmill thing, which took about a minute.
Right.
Because in the minute there were like 5 at least factual inaccuracies or lies, as some people call them. I listened to about 10 minutes more of that last night. There's not a sentence. There's not a complete sentence that comes out that is not untrue. I mean, it is really, and we are so hardened to this because there's so much of it that you don't even blink.
Well, we in the media don't do a very good job with it either. I mean, it would have been helpful if right after that talk full of lies, the reporter enunciated those lies. Not true about the whales. It's not true about the wind farms. It's not true about this. It's not true about that. Because I told you.
And why did they not do it?
I don't know, Jim. Mel from Foxborough. Thank you for calling.
Hello, Mel.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I'm just calling because Democrats don't listen, and their message is so poor. I mean, Marge is claiming that Trump has done so much, but gas in our area is higher, education's still high, housing's still high, groceries still high, healthcare is still, my healthcare just double, childcare is high. He's doing a good job on terrorizing immigrants, spending our tax dollars, like right now in Scotland, promoting his own businesses. And Democrats are just sitting around. Hakeem is really, he's a nice guy, but to me, he's not strong enough, like Nancy Pelosi.
Well, Mel, for whatever it's worth, Mel, if I may interrupt, almost every criticism you voiced of Donald Trump, Katherine Clark voiced about a half hour ago. Almost everyone on your list, she said the same thing.
And his polls are way down, by the way.
Well,
on
moderately
everything.
down. Yeah.
Even on immigration.
Yeah, but approval is not way down, except for that one outlier poll. He's still at a higher approval rate than he was at this time in his first term. So, Mel, what's the alternative for you?
Well, the alternative for me is, there has to be somebody that is a fighter, that can really push things through, and that the message resonates with, especially with young people, because as a Latina, I'm so disappointed with Latinos that voted for Trump, because now they terrorizing Latinos, and now they saying, well, this is not what we voted for. Well, this is exactly what they voted for. So the thing is that, yes, Project 2025 is something that it's more evangelical than anything else. So Democrats need to listen, and Democrats need to have a better PR people that they can really have a message that can resonate.
Mel, two things.
I think Mel is so right though about the PR thing, because that's Trump is really talented as an entertainer. He's very charismatic. He's really talented. Occasionally, he's funny in a sick kind of way. People find that amusing, and you need in 2025. You almost need someone who is like that.
Mel, who's the best Democratic messenger in your estimation?
Right now?
Yeah.
Well,
I guess that's the answer.
I don't see it.
Hey, Mel,
I don't see it.
That was a fabulous call. We hope you call us again soon. Thank you very much. You know what part of the problem is, in defense of the Democrats, is there's one spokesperson for the Republican Party. There's never been as much concentration on one person, on presidents generally, but on this president in particular. Democrats are like 40 people who are trying to be the leader of the party. So in all fairness, the press can't go to Chris Murphy every day.
No.
They can't go to Andy Beshear every day. They can't go to Gretchen Whitmer every day.
Yeah.
They've got to spread the wealth kind of thing, which makes it more... Thursday, I mentioned this yesterday, Mark Leibovich is one of the best writers in America.
Yeah.
He's going to join us Thursday. He wrote a piece essentially saying, where's Obama? And while Obama clearly can't run again, because unlike Trump, he actually understands what the Constitution says about more than 2 terms, but I think that's a really... He could help rally the troops, and I have to say I've been disappointed by how infrequently he speaks, and when he does, how measured what he says about Donald Trump is.
Well, also, you need to have someone to rally the troops around, too, and that's what we're looking for.
Well, it's early to do that when we're 3.5 years away from the next president. So mean, it's pretty hard 6 months in to rally around anybody. You know what I mean?
Judy from Watertown says, the issue is how they talk. Don't make speeches. Talk conversationally.
Yeah.
It's also a sense sometimes Democrats don't really answer the questions. You know what I mean?
Oh, Donald Trump's really good at answering questions.
Well,
I mean, you got to be kidding. Well, by the way, if they want to lie about everything, then of course they can answer them brilliantly.
Well, that's what we're up against.
How are you going to overcome this? Well, we're in the minority in the House and the Senate, and we don't have the presidency. So there's only so much we can do.
I know, but he's
save the Democrats.
He's talking about Gaza, and he's saying he's decided now, because he's seen these images on TV, that there's starvation going on in Gaza, and we're going to set up food.
Food centers.
We're going to have food centers. He says it. People believe him. What's he talking about? What are you supposed to do about that except that he's a fraud and a phony and lies about everything? I mean, you can't do more than that. In a week, maybe, when he's done nothing to advance that notion, you can say it's a week, and there's still no move towards food centers, nor is there a challenge to Netanyahu. But, I mean, he says what he says. You need a charismatic communicator.
Yeah, I understand that.
I'm looking for one.
Listen, can I tell you one thing?
What?
You want a charismatic communicator?
Yeah.
I know you looked at me just then. I have a lot going on. I have a lot going on. I'm trying to cook more so I eat healthier meals. That takes up time. Plus, I have to do the show thing. So I can't do everything,
people
Marjorie.
Think
I really
he's
can't.
Kidding, but he's not.
Okay.
Josh from Agawam. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Josh.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi.
First-time caller. I just wanted to put out a name that I almost never hear in these conversations.
Please.
We got a great congressman out here, Jim McGovern.
Yeah. Well, by the way, I don't know if we're supposed to say this. We are, can I say it? Yeah. We're big fans of Jim McGovern as a person of principle, acts like that 40-mile walk he does around hunger issues with our colleagues at NEPM. Jim McGovern is the real deal. He what?
It's fantastic what he does. And considering the loss of his daughter and all the fighting he's doing out there, I just think that, people just don't talk about him. And I think that if he got money behind him and support from the Democratic Party, they could really do something with him.
Well, again, you're preaching to the choir here. He is a really honorable, principled, tough person. And you're right, and he suffered a horrible loss a few months ago with the loss of his daughter. We should get him on soon again. So, Josh, stay tuned. In the next few weeks, we'll try to get Congressman McGovern to join us. Thanks for your call. We appreciate it.
Anonymous texter says, Jim, why don't you take the lead?
I'm thinking about it.
Dickies for all.
Dickies for all.
Daylight saving time ends on day one. Free charging at the Lennox Hotel for all Americans. I think that's the ticket. You go right to the moon there, don't you think? Jim did run, as people may know, for governor of the Commonwealth of
Massachusetts. I ran for a week in 1990,
right.
And I got very positive. Well, I wouldn't say very positive. I got some reviews. It was a short campaign.
Yeah.
It was 1990.
Yeah. Well, they say that people do better than tall in politics. We like tall presidents, Jim. You're taller than President Trump.
That is true.
That is true.
By the way, do you know?
Squash him like a bug.
I looked this up a few months ago because we talked about this. Do you know that it's somewhere in the 80% range? The taller candidate will almost always win the presidency.
Well, you're 6'5".
I am 6'5".
You could be a first.
I could be a first.
Abraham Lincoln was only 6'4".
Is that true?
I don't know. Maybe he was 6'3".
Oh, okay.
But you were definitely. I don't think you could be the tallest president ever.
I could.
I think it's a campaign.
That's really beautiful. That's a good platform. I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good.
6'5".
I'm the tallest ever. I'm busy, but I'm 6'5".
Okay, Chris from Rhode Island. We only have a little bit of time.
30 seconds. Go.
Thank you for calling.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
My question was, the age-old conundrum of the third independent party.
Yep.
And whether we shouldn't be pursuing that as a third rail.
You know who is pursuing it, Chris? You know who's pursuing it, right?
Yep. Well, there are some.
Elon
Musk, yeah, he's doing it.
Sure, but the other part of my statement was that the current parties in power are really captured by lobbyists. The issue isn't really so much around the agendas that they put forth, but the control over which corporations have our system.
I think that's a very solid point, Chris.
Chris,
unfortunately, thank you for your call.
For the call. Thank you for listening on NAPM this morning. We are done up there in Western Massachusetts, but thanks for tuning in. You can tune into the fabulous 413 starting at 3 o'clock. Monty and Khalees will talk about Mass Mocha's Loud Weekend coming up. Mass Mocha, you're a big fan of that. That's a great operation up there. The show continues here in Boston. We'll talk with NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey about the New York City shooter possibly targeting the NFL. We're also going to talk about the Boston Foundation's Lee Pelton and food policy analyst Corby Kummer about the very important issue of seeds in watermelon. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR on GBH and NAPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Browder and Marjorie Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you. And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering dynamic short programs tailored for mid-career professionals looking to build expertise in innovation, leadership, and technology. Details at executive.mit.edu. Frontline investigates the war between Israel and Iran, delving into the ongoing conflicts in the region and the United States' role in all of it. Watch Remaking the Middle East, Israel versus Iran, tonight at 10 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder, head on Hour 2 of BPR Live from the VPL. We'll start the hour with NBC Sports Boston's Trenni Casey with the latest on the New York gunman's apparent targeting of the NFL offices. We'll also talk about the Fenway concession strike and the MLB's newest star and Marjorie's new favorite player, affectionately known as the Big Dumper.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then Harvard might be on the brink of settling with the Trump administration. The latest capitulation and what it means for higher ed with the Boston Foundation's Lee Pelton. Plus, we'll share some news about a new food equity program coming to Boston. It's all next on the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The gunman who killed 4 people in a Manhattan office building yesterday before he took his own life apparently had a grievance with the National Football League. Here's New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
We have reason to believe that he was focused on the NFL agency that was located in the building.
But the mayor tells MSNBC today the suspect got on the wrong elevator. Investigators disclosed they'd found a rambling note on the suspect's body. He appeared to blame the NFL for repeated brain trauma. The gunman played high school football some 20 years earlier in California. Police say the Las Vegas resident had a history of mental illness. The Gaza Strip is experiencing the, quote, worst-case scenario of famine. The United Nations-backed coalition issued that alert this morning, but stopped short of issuing a formal famine declaration. NPR's Emily Fang brings us that story from Tel Aviv.
The alert by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, warns that, quote, widespread starvation, malnutrition, and disease are driving a rise in hunger-related deaths. The World Health Organization says more than 60 people died of malnutrition in July alone, more than 20 of them children under 5 years old. For hunger to reach the famine threshold on the IPC, the panel says it found at least 30% of children experiencing acute malnutrition. The panel used data collected up to 4 days ago, before Israel started letting in more food to Gaza. So the group said a new analysis would be conducted without delay and updated data. Israeli officials have denied there is starvation in Gaza and have blamed Hamas for stoking chaos in aid distribution. Emily Fang, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
President Trump's lawyers want to depose Rupert Murdoch. Trump's suing the 94-year-old media mogul, the Wall Street Journal's parent company, and two of the paper's reporters for libel. Here's NPR's David Folkenflag.
The two titans of the American right have been political allies for the past decade. Murdoch's Fox News, the New York Post, and the Journal's editorial pages have largely served as pillars of support for Trump. Now Trump wants a judge to give Murdoch just 2 weeks to be deposed, saying it's uncertain whether he would show up at a trial. Trump says he warned Murdoch not to publish a story, saying Trump sent a bawdy birthday message 2 decades ago to the late Jeffrey Epstein. Trump says he did not draw or send such a note. Outside lawyers say Trump's case is flimsy, yet he has won big settlements from the parent companies of ABC, CBS, Facebook, and X for suits that were similarly deemed as weak. Now Trump is putting his former ally Murdoch on notice, too. David Folkenflik, NPR News.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down more than 200 points. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Reports out of Washington say Harvard is nearing a deal with the Trump administration. From our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports some faculty say they're disappointed.
The New York Times, citing anonymous sources, says Harvard may spend up to $500 million to settle its dispute with the White House. That's upsetting for Ryan Enos, a government professor at Harvard. He says the school previously pledged to defend academic freedom.
And I'm frankly sad for what this means for the country, because people put so much faith into Harvard that it would stand up for our democracy, and it seems to be failing in not living up to the moment.
The federal government has accused Harvard of civil rights violations for its handling of protests against the war in Gaza. The White House and Harvard are still working out financial terms, and Harvard is reportedly reluctant to pay the government directly. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News.
You don't need me to tell you it's hazy, hot, and Henry today. We have a heat advisory in place for Massachusetts as forecasters continue to warn of intense heat and humidity, which is expected to peak today. High temperatures in the state's 3 largest cities expected to go north of 95 degrees, with Boston and Springfield forecasted to reach 98, 97 in Worcester. The feels-like temperatures will be in triple digits in all 3 cities and across much of the Commonwealth. The advisory is in place until 8 p.m. tomorrow, and then we get relief and rain on Thursday. 92 degrees outside our studios here in Brighton. I'm Henry Santoro. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Brady and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. Thank you. And streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We'll be back here tomorrow and Friday as well. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. We're joined now at the library desk by Trenni Casey, anchor and reporter for NBC Sports Boston, and a BPR contributor. Hey, Trenni.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Trenni. Thanks for coming in. So we've learned a lot about this shooter in the attack on Park Avenue yesterday in New York City, that apparently he wrote a suicide note referencing his concern about CTE and that he may have been targeting the NFL, which is located in that high-rise?
Yeah, the note he left said, "Please donate my brain. I'm sorry." And he wrote in there in his note that he thinks he has CTE, which for those of you who don't follow football closely, there have been a number of players, the most famous, I think, who sort of started maybe the trend researching this further, was Junior Seau, when in 2012 he shot himself in the chest in order to preserve his brain so that it could be studied based on his level of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. And he was really a young man, only 36 years old. To the best of my knowledge, all the reporting that I've seen thus far, he played running back in high school. So he played high school football. I'm assuming if he played high school football, he probably played it as a youth as well. But he feels like his mental health issues later in life were caused by CTE, and he said that he felt misled by the NFL and that they push a game that damages the brains of their athletes.
By the way, we should know, obviously what matters in this case is in terms of motive is that he thought what he thought, if he did. But it was why we've all learned you can't diagnose CTE in a living person.
Right.
You got to diagnose the brain after. Yeah, I know we've had this discussion before. There are some people over at BU from Ann McKee, Dr. McKee, Dr. Cantu, Chris Nowinski, all of whom were critical in all this work about CTE. There's a story in the Athletic. There's a story every few months in the Athletic, which is now part of the New York Times, about this college football player I'd never heard of, Greg Newman, who went to the University of Utah, was a star in whatever their bowl game was, essentially, briefly played pros for like a month or something, I don't recall. He died a year ago, and it appears now that they sent his brain, his sister, I think, did, to Ann McKee over Dr. McKee, that he had CTE, which explains a lot of his irrational, antisocial, horrible behavior. The NFL is still in semi-denial. And one of the, I think, naive hopes I have, and you can tell me because I can't remember what you said in the past, how naive it is all this flag football experimentation. And they're thinking, I mean, it's an Olympic possibility.
No, not a possibility.
It's going to happen?
It's going to be
this one or the, oh, it is?
The one in LA.
Oh, the one in LA, okay.
We're 3 years essentially from that.
Is it unrealistic to think that we're finally going to get to the point, or do people want the violence so much that
listen, I am hopeful that there is a sea change at some point where people see, what people love about football. They love two things. They love big electric play and great athletes, which you still get in flag football, right? Because you'll get the deep passes, you'll get the big armed quarterbacks, the fast, right? Like the fast, the fast wide receivers. But what you don't get are the big hits. And football purists, will say that there's been enough advancement, that it's not as risky as it used to be. I don't buy it. I was happy to find out when I was home last week, when I, zoomed in with you guys from Wisconsin, that my nephew doesn't want to play football after flag. Nephew? He's 10. He'll be 11 in March. That's and my sister and brother-in-law don't want him to play anyway. And they were happy that he's like, you know what? After this, I'm done. There are other things I like to do. I don't want to play this. Why does he not want to play? I think he's kind of a smaller kid, and I don't think he likes. He's also a really intellectual kid. He reads a lot, and I think he understands, like, hey, this, he doesn't like getting knocked around, right? Like, he doesn't like the tackling. He likes to run and play flag football. So I'm hopeful that maybe flag football takes off in a way, that it becomes a marketable product. I think the NFL is trying to see how marketable of a product it is. But as long as, at the end of the day, I don't know that we'll ever live to see it, Jim. Yeah. People, it's still the number one sport. Sunday Night Football is the number one television program year after year after year in terms of ratings. The Super Bowl is still the most watched television program every single year in this country. People love tackle football. I now cringe when I see a guy laid out on the field and a big hit, but other people, so many others even wear still cheer it.
The protective helmets we talked to you about like 6 months ago.
You see some more and more players are wearing them, so they're kind of funky looking, right?
They fit on top of the helmet?
They fit on top of the helmet, and they're like an additional layer of protection, but, it's an aesthetic thing. It's a weight thing. It's all these stuff that these guys don't want to play. And at this point, I will say this, at this point, we know the dangers of it. So it is more of a choice now than ever. The Junior Seaus of the world, they covered it up, right? Yeah. For years. But this next generation of players, now they know. I say this all the time, but I'm always shocked at the number of people who cover football, who see what happens to these guys, that their kids play football and they want them to play football and they coach football, and it's like,
here's the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, because you both know more about this than I do, but I thought one of the things that we've learned is that it's not just the major concussions that you might get.
No, it's sub-concussions.
It's these
repetitive hits.
So if you maybe don't start football, and boys particularly, they may not even grow till they're 14 or 15 or 16.
Oh, you don't stop growing as a boy till 25.
Yeah, so if you
physically
wait at least until later to start your football career, then if you wait till you're 15 or 16 and you end up to be the size of Jim, maybe you might have a chance as a middle linebacker or something.
Yeah, listen, it is the repetitive hits. I don't know that any of it, to be honest, is good. It probably depends too on like what position are you playing? Are you playing quarterback, which is a highly protected position?
Exactly. Or are you on the line?
Are you on the line?
Yeah.
Like those offensive linemen are constantly plowing into each other. Now they're plowing into each other with their hands, but they're still, your head's getting, when you're little, your head's getting jogged around.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I'm part of the problem. I'm still I like watching football. I like football Sundays. I like to watch the Packers. I like to watch the Patriots. Like, I'm psyched that it's time for training camp right now because it gives us, as a sports broadcaster, it's what we talk about the Patriots nonstop. They are always the number one story, whether they're really, really good or really, really bad. Like, this has turned into a football town from a baseball town. Which is why, Jim, to circle back to your original question, I don't know that no matter what happens, what would change people? Because I think everyone still looks at it and says, "Oh, it happens every once in a while. It happens to 1 out of every 50 players. It's part of the the job hazard."
By the way, just I want to follow up on what Marjorie said a minute ago. The organization that Nowinski, Cantu, and McKee work for is called the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and they recommend that parents delay their children's participation in tackle football until at least the age of 14.
Yeah.
So they've actually, and they lobby around the country.
And the other thing we should say, too, is schools now have those at the beginning of the season. You take that test.
What's that called?
I don't know, the CTE test.
No.
Well, no, it's like a cognitive. It's like you said,
concussion test.
Yeah.
How fast you can identify a triangle or a square, whatever it is. And if you get a concussion, you cannot go back and play again till you are back where you were before the concussion test was.
I will say,
which is great.
And this is not football. My youth sports knowledge comes strictly from my niece and nephew, but my niece suffered a concussion playing soccer, and that's another thing people will say, "Oh, you can get a concussion in any sport."
Headers.
But really, you get many more concussions, and you have more head trauma in football and hockey than you do in any other sport because of the constant banging against the boards or the line play. But to the point, she was not allowed to play. Like, they also take it's like a baseline.
Yeah.
It's a baseline cognitive test. And she was out for a couple of weeks, until all of her symptoms were gone, and she was cleared. Like, my brother and sister wouldn't let her. My brother-in-law, ran over from Wisconsin. We didn't marry each other. My sister and brother-in-law didn't let her play until she was ready, and neither did the coaches. And there was no pressure for her to play either.
Yeah,
Now, she's only a freshman on varsity, but still, I do think that when you have good coaches and you have schools that care about the kids, there are some parameters in place now to protect the athletes.
Okay, before we leave the subject, I feel obligated every single time we talk about it to say the highest profile person who's ever played football, when asked if he wants his kid to play football, didn't even in the context of this, doesn't even mention the risk.
Tom Brady.
Just says, I really hope he does. It'd be great. Not an ounce of caution.
Well, it's okay because
parents.
Giselle's not going to let him play football.
Well, you know what
That's
I think?
That's probably a good point, by the way.
You know what happens, I think, Jim? Like, Tom Brady, so far, and it's so far, he's only 48 years old. He'll be 48 in a couple of days. I think August, weirdly, that I know his birthday. I think
that
it's
is
August 2nd.
a little frightening, I should say.
So he'll be 48 in a couple of days. Like, so far, at least outwardly, we don't know if he's experiencing, like Giselle, the whole reason she wanted him to quit football is because she said he had suffered so many concussions and she started to worry about him.
Yep.
So what that makes me wonder is what was happening behind the scenes that we didn't see with Tom Brady. And at some point, will we see a cognitive decline or something that makes him change his mind? I'm not sure.
But he's smart
I don't
enough.
know.
He's seen what happened around him.
I know.
Even if he's healthy, Junior
But it's also
Seau
made
played with
him-
him for a year or two.
I think a lot of these guys look at it and they look at the benefits that outweigh the risks, whether the financial gain that he has had. I mean, he is a part owner of a team, the Las Vegas Raiders, because he's a 100 millionaire, right? Because of football. He's able to be a broadcaster on Fox for a record-breaking contract because he was a good football player. Like, I think a lot of them talk about the team building and the friendships, and it's hard when guys retire from the sport. Many of them are lost for a long time because football has been such an integral part of their lives from the time they played Pop Warner at 5 or 6 years old. So I think sometimes when you've had success and you haven't seen the dark side of it yet, it's really easy to say, well, look what it did for me, look what it did for me. But personally, I'm with you. I wish that Tom Brady would say, listen, we're going to weigh the risks. I don't want him to play the research, blah, 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 blah.
No. Just
doesn't have to say no,
pros
but
and the cons.
I'm with you on that. But I also can see the side of this has been such a massive part of their lives that I think that they, in their minds, think it's perftly okay.
We're talking to
Trenni Casey from NBC Sports Boston. People may know that there has been a strike up at Fenway Park, and here's a clip of Unite Here, Local 26 President Carlos Aramayo at Friday's strike. They're concerned about automation taking away the jobs of the people that are the vendors there. Here's the clip from Aramayo.
Aramark and Fenway Park have put in place automated technology that is taking away our jobs and frankly making the park less safe.
So what's happening up there? Is this
so they're not striking anymore? They did come off the picket line. They were striking for 3 days, but the latest news I read is that they are going to go back to work, but they have not announced the constructs of a new deal yet. But I think this, to me, is probably the first of many.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how many times? I don't know if you guys subscribe to Axios.
Yes, I love Axios.
And they have done a tremendous job of really looking at the long-term impact that automation can have. And I think when he's talking about safety, what he's probably talking about is alcohol sales, right? Like anything that becomes sort of automated, there's no regulation. I suppose you could link it to you can only buy X amount of drinks per credit card, but what stops you from like 7 of you all buying, your once for everybody else on your own card? Also, it's just this is how a lot of people. Because it's not just Fenway Park, it's also MGM. It's not just always seasonal. Like, this is how people make a living.
Yeah.
And I know part of this, when the actors were striking or the writers were striking in Hollywood, it was part AI and automation was part of that. Like, I think we're going to see more and more of this. It was, to me, disappointing. Listen, I know John Henry has nothing to do with Aramark.
They subcontract.
They subcontract to them. It does get frustrating when, your billionaire owners don't step in on behalf of the people who make their engine run. They make a ton of money. We always say this about the Bruins. Of course, the Jacobs family is the owner of Delaware North, which is basically the competitor to Aramark. We always say they don't really care how the team does as long as they get 1 or 2 playoff series because they make so much money on ticket sales and concessions. So even if John Henry doesn't own Aramark, that to me was probably one of the disappointing things. I just feel like he has taken such a back seat on so many important issues involving the Red Sox and Fenway Park that it's been really disappointing to me.
Well, in all fairness, though, we don't. I think we'd all agree that if John Henry were here and we say, how much do you want a settlement? He would say, I want it like you can't imagine.
Right.
So we don't know if he's putting pressure on Aramark behind the scenes.
Possibly behind the scenes.
I would assume he's doing that thing, and I think they've
Well, he doesn't ever speak or answer questions, so we don't know.
Well, he does, and I agree. That I would love to see him talk more, too, but I actually think they've done some pretty decent things over there, including with the baseball team. So
you and I differ greatly on our thoughts about the local 9.
I guess we do.
So I read this story about Cal Raleigh, apparently baseball's big breakout star.
The big dumper?
The big dumper. And I'm thinking to myself, if I became an all-star in anything, the first place I would not want to get a huge contract, or I don't think I'd want to necessarily get a contract at all, with Honey Bucket, a leader in portable sanitation services.
He's the big dumper.
He's the big dumper. Yeah.
I'm right to assume that portable sanitation is just a porta potty, right?
Porta potty, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. He's going to be the star for the Honey Bucket porta potty company because he's the big dumper.
He talks about the fact that he has a big behind.
He's always had a big behind.
And that's where and by the way, we should say this guy is on pace to have more home runs than any catcher in the history of baseball. So it's not some also run.
He had 36 at the break, 36 home runs. The most home runs ever for a catcher was 40. So he's going to blow that out of the water. He is. Listen, you don't know a lot about Cal Raleigh because he plays for Seattle. And he plays on the West Coast. I think he's older. He's 28 years old. So he's he's an old
You're talking about the big dumper? Is that what you're talking about?
Big
okay, just want to be clear.
Yeah.
The big dumper.
Yeah, the big dumper is 28 years old.
Big
and
dumper.
he gets that nickname for those of you who are like, why is it? He's got a large behind.
Okay.
He has a lot
big
of junk.
dumper.
A lot of junk in his trunk.
A lot of junk in his trunk. I always love that line.
And it has made him a powerful hitter. He won the home run derby. I'm going to be honest, guys, until the home run derby, I was like, who is this guy? I've never heard of this guy before.
Me too.
Because I don't really follow American League West baseball. First of all, it's kind of a crummy division.
Oh, it is?
48 is the all-time record, by the way.
Oh,
He's
48,
got
I thought it was
40,
40.
but he's clearly going to surpass
Yeah.
it.
I mean, he'd have to really go on again in the on the pooper if he didn't. See, like
that is beautiful.
That's
that
very
is
good.
For him to
so
not
good.
hit 48 home runs this year. No, but it's a fun story. And yeah, I mean, the fact that a porta potty, I think he gives like 2 thumbs up to the honey bucket. Listen, make money however you can because it's not
doesn't last.
Well,
Yeah,
also
not going to be there forever.
Not going to be there forever. And baseball players historically, like how many baseball players do you know that have major endorsement deals? It's only the really big players. So you say, I don't think I'd ever want to do a porta potty ad.
No, I guess you take advantage of your assets.
I would do a porta potty ad in a second. And if they wanted to call me the big dumper so that I could get the contract,
Well,
thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, I should say what Margie's referencing. In the staff meeting, she calls me the big dumper. She's done that for years. And I know she means it lovingly. So that's for. By the way, can you imagine being so secure in who you are that you're not upset that your nickname is the big dumper?
Yeah.
I mean,
but
really.
I'm not there yet.
I mean, I feel like it probably has served him well in his position. Like as a catcher.
Oh, you're like bending down there.
Well, I suppose it's a little heavier when you're down in that crouch, but I suppose you also, I'm assuming, based on why we've really just gone down the toilet with this one.
So to speak,
but like, I don't know, like I guess, you squat. People squat so that you can get a larger behind,
That's
a
an
more
excellent
muscular,
point.
and like
Thank
that's where
you.
you get power in your legs from. So I think it's actually, for him, it's probably part of why he is such a prolific catcher. And he's physically gifted as a catcher and a hitter, and he's able to withstand the rigors of it. So he probably embraces his big booty.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I like that a lot. I mean,
All right. As someone who has been called long back by people before, one of my best friends from early in my career calls me long back because I have
What's
no
wrong?
butt. I'm just one long back.
Oh, I'm not going to follow up on that. Thank you.
I understand. I am sort of envious of the big dumper.
Can I ask you one more big dumper question, if I may? I was reading about him either last night or maybe at the All-Star game. He never had close to this many home runs. And almost every time in my lifetime following baseball, the last 30 years, when you go from being average to being spectacular, you're generally on something. I've seen no accusations around this guy.
I wonder if it's just because he's an older player. Maybe because he seems. I mean, I don't know. It always enters my mind still because I grew up during the steroid age. And when all of a sudden, I think quietly people still talk about it, but baseball does have better drug testing systems in place. That's not to say you can't cheat the system.
There are rumors that he's gotten steroids in his behind. That is true.
Well, you wouldn't know. How would you know?
Okay.
So can we
Can we slide in one more thing before we go?
Sure, go ahead.
The Dan Shaughnessy story about being at the Hall of Fame.
Oh, this was great. Did you read this?
Yeah. Tell us about it.
So Dan Shaughnessy, who is admittedly a crotchety old man, went to the Baseball Hall of Fame induction was this weekend, and he said more than ever he noticed there was a huge divide of a then and now.
Yeah.
So he talked to a lot of former players, and when I say former players, I'm not just talking about the 70-year-old guys. There's also Cal Ripken Jr. and Ken Griffey Jr., who are in their 50s. I would guess. They're probably about 10, 15 years older than me, so late 50s, early 60s at most. So they're not older, they're not old guys. But they're talking about this big disconnect between baseball when they played and now, and how we remember what happened at spring training. Jim Rice, who of course is a great Red Sox hitter in his own right, was trying to help. And a Hall of Famer was trying to help a young hitter and telling him how to hit line drives. And the hitter had asked him about which way to shift his weight. And so the Red Sox, this is my issue with the Red Sox.
No, I have a problem with this too.
They use a system called Driveline, which is super analytics based. And this Driveline kid says to Hall of Famer Jim Rice, it's a kid who played Division I college baseball. That's it, which is still an accomplishment. And says to Jim Rice, that's not what we teach him. Don't give him that advice. And Jim Rice was really taken aback by it, but that was sort of the theme. And Dan said that
they only want to hit home runs?
They only want to hit home runs. They want launch angle. They want exit velocity. Everything is about hitting the ball up and out of the park, as opposed to the old school way of playing baseball, which is moving base runners, bunting. I mean, how often do you see a squeeze play or a bunt play anymore in baseball?
What's
it
a
is
squeeze
so
play? Do you
rare.
know?
I do not know.
Guys on third base,
you
and
squeeze.
you bunt. which is risky because if you miss,
stuck between third and home.
Well, no, you want to get
Can
him
I tell
home,
you-
so you squeeze the.
Can I give it to Shaughnessy? We're talking about Big Dumper before and how you can live with that. Shaughnessy writes this whole column about how the older, not old as you say in all cases.
Well, some old, but
older
some older.
players say it ain't what it used to be.
Yeah,
which
no
is,
more
I don't
fundamentals.
think that's that atypical in anything. Almost always the older people think they're not the
And
new
he-
ones.
he does
However,
reference that.
You know what?
He acknowledges
I
that.
gotta praise Shaughnessy for beyond the fact that he's one of the great sports writers who ever lived.
Oh, he's great.
I don't think I read it quickly. He never mentions who's in the Hall of Fame. He is. He's in the Hall of Fame for writing.
He is for
now,
writing.
if you're writing a story about the Hall of Fame,
He's actually in there multiple times. He's in there. Not only is he in there as a winner of, I think it's not the Frick Award. It's
I know
whatever
what
the
there's
writer
some
award is.
writer
But he's
award.
also featured in the Babe Ruth exhibition because he
Oh, the
wrote.
book?
Yep, he wrote a book about
Did you
Babe Ruth.
know Dan Shaughnessy and I used to be host and co-host together.
Before
And
I got the job.
And then Dan went away, and then I got Jim.
Oh.
Yeah.
well, I mean, in all fairness, he went away because it was like the worst show in the history of radio. That may have something to do with it.
That's right. We were nowhere until we had.
But having said
Jim
that,
join us.
in all
Jim
seriousness,
yes.
Came in
how
and saved the
great,
game. He's
how
the best
great,
closer.
you're in the Hall of Fame, and you're so down to earth that you decide
Yeah.
you don't even have to mention in a story about the Hall of Fame. By the way, in parentheses, I'm an inductee. I thought that was pretty.
I don't know. Would you, if you were in a Hall of Fame,
I'd
you're
put
not
it in the
even
first
writing
sentence.
about it?
Can me it be in capital letters? What is wrong with this woman? Will I mention it?
Well, yeah, I guess I should
I have
know.
mentioned that I was most improved camper at Camp Anabar
Okay.
like 100 times. So the answer is, of course, you do. Trenni, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Trenni. Thank you very much. Okay, Trenni Casey is with NBC Sports Boston. She's an anchor and reporter there. She's got a great show there. Thank you very much for coming in, Trenni. After this quick break, we're going to talk to Lee Pelton from the Boston Foundation. We're going to talk about Harvard. Are they poised to capitulate to Donald Trump? And also, we're talking about this great program they've got to deal with food crises from the Big Beautiful Bill. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
A massive budget shortfall, a rogue bank account, and Randolph Public School vendors waiting to get paid.
I missed a paycheck. My other staff missed multiple paychecks. I couldn't take it out of my personal money. We just had to wait.
This is a paperwork issue. There's plenty of funds to cover all of our bills.
The lack of confidence, the lack of communication.
It was a complete circus.
I'm Paul Singer. You can find the rest of that story online at gbhnews.org.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Commonwealth Shakespeare Company, presenting As You Like It, this summer's free Shakespeare on the Boston Common. Shakespeare's lush romantic comedy celebrating the joys and follies of human nature, July 23rd through August 10th. comshakes.org. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Knowing Nature, Stories of the Boreal Forest. Captivating photos and interactive displays take visitors inside a vast wilderness. On view this summer. PEM.org.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're joined now at the BPL desk by Lee Pelton. Lee is the president and CEO of the Boston Foundation, a member of GBH's Board of Trustees, and previously served as the 12th president of Emerson College. Hello, Lee Pelton. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you.
So we were just talking before the break how upset we are about lots of things. And one of the things I wanted to ask Lee Pelton about was this capitulation by colleges. Columbia University has already made a deal with Donald Trump. Claire Shipman, the acting president there, says they really haven't capitulated that much. It seems to me they have. Now, shortly after closing their diversity offices at Harvard that served minority students, LGBTQ students, and women, they've closed that over there at Harvard. Now they may be open to spending up to $500 million to get Trump off their back and making some concessions to the president. So what do you think?
Can I break up your question?
Sure.
I'm interested to hear first what you think of the done deal, of the
Columbia,
Columbia thing,
okay.
and then we can move on to what we're reading in the New York Times this morning. What do you think about what happened there?
Well, you know, when Bart Giamatti stepped down from being president at Yale, he said that being a college president is no way for an adult to make a living. And this is especially true in these days. So the paradigm shift, which has been in existence for quite a while, but which the Trump administration has taken advantage of, is that private universities are really not private anymore.
Right.
They're not private because they're beholden to federal funding, in the billions of dollars. That's for Columbia, that's for Harvard. And so you find yourself in a position of having to capitulate. And, I think unfortunately that's just where we are. And they're not the beginning, but they're one of several private universities that I think won't be able to survive with the withdrawal of billions of dollars in federal funding to support their research and other aspects of the university.
So would you have done the same thing? You were president of Emerson. If you were confronted with the same situation, you're allowing anti-Semites to populate, and again, being accused by somebody who hangs out with neo-Nazis, the president of the United States, of anti-Semitism. We know there is anti-Semitism to be dealt with. We know he blows it out of proportion. And they say to you, not only do we want money from you, not only are we going to limit your academic freedom, you have to agree to a monitor, an outside monitor, to oversee your compliance. Would you agree to that?
I don't know. I mean, I can't speak.
I think you do know.
Well, I can't, because I can't speak to the particulars of this. Only what I read in the press. So I don't know what else. What are some of the other aspects of this? But we live in an authoritarian federal
So you
government.
give in to the authoritarianism? Is that what? Because you have no choice? Because they
maybe. I don't know. I don't know what I would do in that situation because I'm not confronted with it. I don't know all the facts and the details and so on and so forth. I think it's unfortunate. It upsets me to no end. But should I be upset with the fact that they capitulated, or should I be upset because we have this authoritarian regime that is using all of its tools to bring college and universities to their knees?
This may be totally naive because I've never had a job with that level of responsibility like you did when you ran Emerson or Shipman or Garber over there at Harvard. But there's no question that if you don't cut a deal and you lose, well, even if you win the litigation, it's about short-term funding. Trump legally will probably deny billions in the future. It seems to me, when you say has to capitulate, that the calculation one has to make is, yes, I will lose billions of dollars if I'm a major place like Columbia or Harvard in the short run, the next 3 years. But if I take action to avoid losing those billions of dollars, two things happen. One, I am gambling that Donald Trump won't violate the deal, and he's violated probably every deal he's ever agreed to in his whole career as a businessman and as a president. And secondly, I'll lose research funding in the short run, but maybe standing up to the authoritarianism that Lee Pelton describes will put us all in better shape down the line. So short-term pain, short-term losses for a longer-term gain.
Right, but it's not just money. This is not money. This is about people. And so there, dozens, hundreds of people will no longer be able to work there or be able to do the life-saving research that we all depend on. So it's not, we can talk about it in terms of a monetary perspective, but it's much more than that. It really is about people.
But you're much more of an historian than I am. You're certainly much more of an expert on civil rights struggles than I am. It seems to me that in every kind of struggle, particularly in the civil rights struggle, there were people that were willing to say, no, I'm not going to stand up at risk of their own lives. And people lost their lives, never mind their jobs. And it seems like that's sort of, I'm quite a coward myself. I'm not, don't know if I could stand up to this kind of pressure. But you know what I'm saying? That this doesn't work.
Yeah, but maybe it doesn't. We'll see. But it's a massive, massive scale. And it involves hundreds, if not thousands of people. It involves giving up research that could be life-saving research for millions of people. So, the
and
stakes
you think
are,
he won't back down? You don't think he'll get these capitulations and then he'll say, ha, ha, ha?
I don't know. I have no idea whether or not he will back down. We'll see. The history is that, of course, he will change his mind in some quixotic moment. So, we'll see.
So can I ask you one more thing here on this deal? And by the way, it's very hard to say what you're saying. I know it is because I know you and I know how you feel about fights. And you are a guy who fights, but you've also been a university president. But it seems to me that if Harvard cuts a deal, and the New York Times story would suggest they're at least negotiating toward a deal, you don't know if there's going to be closure. They say they wouldn't agree to outside monitoring. Columbia probably said that too. I don't know. If the most powerful university in the world gets accused of anti-Semitism, they think they have a legal case against what Trump is doing. They decide to drop it to make a settlement that at least in part gives in to Trump, then it seems to me that the message to Donald Trump is you should send a letter to every single college and university that gets $1 in federal funding, accuse them of anti-Semitism, no hearings, no nothing, no due process, and say, if it turns out you don't cut a deal with me like Harvard and Columbia did next week, you're never getting another federal dollar. I mean, that's not a ridiculous extrapolation from the Columbia and potentially the Harvard situation, is it?
No, it's not. But this is not just about anti-Semitism. This is about the erasure of DEI across the nation.
Exactly. The anti-Semitism thing is a cover.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
This is what this is about. And it's really the scale of it, the encroachment of it is really frightening and disturbing.
Do you talk to any of these presidents? You talk to some of these people, I assume, right?
No, not so much.
Really? Is that true? You're not making eye contact with me.
No, I don't. I mean, I've got my own gig to worry about.
Well, speaking of your own gig, you wrote a great piece in the Boston Business Journal talking about, and the headline of which was "When Policy Fails, the People Lead with Moral Courage." And you were talking about the big, beautiful bill, but you said justice begins with the truth. So what else did you say about when policy fails the people in that piece?
Well, what we're doing at the Boston Foundation is preparing ourselves and preparing our community for even more deleterious actions that may be coming down the road. And so we're using, the Boston Foundation is more than just grant making. We convene, we capacity builders, we do research, and so on. A lot of different aspects of it. And so in this, what I talked about in this article was about the Boston indicators, which I know both of you are big fans of.
Huge fans.
Of that part of the Boston Foundation. And so we're leaning on the Boston indicators to provide us some research in all of these various aspects that may be under threat by the Trump administration and others who are opposed to facts. Imagine that, but opposed to facts. So.
One of the things, I read that piece too, and our staff put that together with another piece, the headline of which was something like dozens protest at BMC. I can't remember what, Boston Medical Center. I'm not sure about what cuts. I know I speak for Marjorie here. I continue to be amazed that there is such little spontaneous, in the streets, literally or figuratively, reaction to what's going on. Are you? And if you are, why has the response been so tepid?
Well, because I think that folks are not feeling the impact, really. I just
mean, it's abstract so far.
Yeah, right. Okay. I think it is for the most part.
And it hasn't hit yet.
Yeah, and we had these sort of symbolic marches and things like that earlier in the year. But those were mostly ideological marches in opposition, so I don't think it's not impactful to most people.
You know, speaking of what you mentioned to Marjorie a minute ago, is that you're convening and you are funding. You're not just a funder, but you're a funder in part. I hope it's okay to mention, because I don't know if it's been announced yet, but we were told about it. You're also directly addressing the food nightmare that is coming out of what's going on in Washington with some grant making. Can you share with us a little bit of what you're doing?
Well, let me say a few facts that might be startling to you. In the Boston community, 1 in 3, a third of residents, have experienced some kind of insecurity. And of that third, almost 2/3 are actually working. And 82% are working, and 2/3 are working full time. So these are not people who are sitting at home and not working. These are working families, and 1 out of 3 are insecure and feel food insecure. And so the elimination, or I shouldn't say the elimination, but the diminution of SNAP benefits will affect so many residents in this city and in the Commonwealth and really across the nation. And so what we have done is we have called up Catherine D'Amato.
She was with us a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I know
she's great.
she was.
She's great. Greater Boston Food Bank, yeah.
And I said, I got $1 million for you. And I said, will you take it? And she said, yes. So,
is that a true story?
Yeah.
So, that is great.
Will you take it?
Yeah,
I love it.
So we're committing $1 million to the Greater Boston Food Bank. We're also committing $500,000 to various food pantries. If you think of the great as sort of spoke and wheels and spokes, we're going to focus the $1 million on the Greater Boston Food Bank, but another $500,000 towards these other food pantries, and we're fundraising like crazy. And so I think we're now up to $1.8 million after, I think we just launched this a week ago. And so we hope to increase that. So anybody out there listening to this show and you want to do something profoundly wonderful, please be in contact with the Boston Foundation so we can include you in this campaign.
Can you do that online? Can you do that?
Yeah.
TBF.org, is that what it is?
You can, yeah.
Check it out. And you could, if you choose to give money to the Boston Foundation, I'm not talking about big institutional donors, but individuals, can they give to this program, for example?
Absolutely.
They can target their funding.
Absolutely, yeah.
Our boss, Susan Goldberg, was here the other day after Congress voted to defund Corporation for Public Broadcasting, PBS and NPR, and we asked her how fundraising was going in the, I don't know, it was a week, 2 weeks since the vote, and she said it had picked up dramatically. Not that it wasn't decent before, but that it was really going gangbusters since then. Are you experiencing a similar thing post the reconciliation, the budget tax cut bill?
Well, our total contributions, this is money into the Boston Foundation this year, has been at a historic high.
That's great.
And the previous high was about $310 million, and we beat that by $100 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that? I don't mean this in the uncomplimentary way. Is that because of the wonderful work you do, or because of the horrible work Trump does?
I'm sure it's because of the wonderful CEO.
Of course, that's right.
So, no, is there is it? And I think you do wonderful work, as you know. But is this a Trump?
People recognize the need, and we're doing our very best to make sure that folks out there understand what the needs are, and they are responding in a wonderful, wonderful way.
That's fabulous.
For which we're very grateful.
So, one of the things, Marjorie and I were talking about you this morning.
Yes, we were. Absolutely.
You said, I always find Lee to be proactive. He operationalizes his stakeholders. He's the best incubator I have ever come across in my life. And it all sounded familiar to me. And then I realized I had read a Boston Magazine article the other day in which the writer, I think his name was Tom McGrath, said he had gone to a couple of institutions around the city, and he found that there were, in the meeting he was in, that there was what he called elite speak. Words, for example, like I just, look at your face, Lee Pelton, described. So,
decolonized, systemic, student affinity spaces, people-powered participatory democracy, minoritarized adults.
Go ahead, take it
That's
away.
not
Take all the time
me.
you need. Who do you want to blame for that?
I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of institutions in this world that have a sort of tribal speak.
Yeah.
And, we're not free from that. But there are other organizations where you find that. Optimize and things like that.
Yeah. Here's a quote from a person. I'm not going to mention who said this, but this
Wait,
was
is the person quoted?
The person's quoted.
So say who it is. It's in the story.
I'm making fun of the person. I don't want to do that.
Wait,
this
is
was
it
a
him?
statement on this. This was a statement from the dean on the website. Engaging in place-based work and transcending disciplines to tackle complex social problems amplifies and strengthens the contributions of the School of Social Work.
Oh, I said that.
Well, who in the hell knows what that means?
Exactly. It's like they forgot to read The Strunk and White. Say it in the fewest possible words, the most direct way possible.
Exactly.
But it is true. I'm going to have to kid Irene Monroe because
My apologies to that president, but...
That's right. We won't mention who it is.
Do it better.
But we talked all the time about intersectionality, and I said I'd never heard of intersectionality. Yeah. Intersectionality is a very prominent word in the lingo these days. Irene and I were discussing that. Correct. And she said I was behind the times and I didn't know about that, and I didn't know about it. But that's probably because I worked at the Boston Herald. We didn't use intersectionality in the Boston Herald.
Okay, so Lee has turned several shades here. So let's go.
It's a very funny piece,
Can we end
though.
where we began for a minute? Marjorie, I think, mentioned this in passing. Before the New York Times story this morning, I think, saying the reports that Harvard was willing to ante up $500 million for a settlement, depending on what the terms were. And I think people know that Columbia came up with only, in quotes, $200 million. Allegedly, they'll get their $400 million in research funding back. I would say hold your breath before you cash that check. Part of what Margie mentioned in passing is the day or two before, Harvard got rid of the office that dealt with women, people of color, LGBTQ. People changed the name. I think I wrote it down. Actually, I can't find it.
People of color is one of the things we're not supposed to say anymore.
When I was reading another story, not this one this morning, that just in the New York Times, of all places, that matter-of-factly, I guess I can't fault a reporter, talked about how Trump is going after so-and-so, matter-of-factly, around DEI issues, questions of race. And it was almost like a throwaway line, like an accepted thing. And I fear that in addition to the capitulation that you say may be unavoidable, and I hope, and I know Marjorie does, that you're wrong, but I understand your point of view, the dismantling of any consideration of race or gender, or, well, you know what I'm saying, is it doesn't just come back when all of a sudden another... Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a terrible moment from my point of view in American history, and there's just erasure of so much that's been important about America. That's what's happening in front of us. And I think the story about the university in Virginia.
George Mason, were they going after the president? Black guy, by the way.
First black guy.
And the faculty.
And going after the faculty.
All their details they want about the faculty, it's terrible.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Going after the faculty, not just after the president. And, I think they have a meeting on Friday. I would be very surprised if he survived that.
Yep.
Because the board has been stacked by a bunch of people from the Heritage Foundation, and I think they're ready to get rid
And they get rid of the president of
take
UPenn, too.
One more go at the capitulation thing for a second. Do you not fear, I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you're here, so I can. You tell me if I'm wrong, that it may be unavoidable if they want research and other funding, at least in some fashion, to survive. Do you worry that you're making a miscalculation, they are too, and that what you end up saying, let's say in 2 or 3 years, is those decisions which I deem necessary, and university presidents and law firms and whatever deemed necessary, helped create this authoritarian structure that has now totally taken over what once was a democracy? Is that
I do worry about that, of course. And but this is a business deal. I mean, that's what this is. And they've done their best. I suspect that Harvard will, at some point, capitulate at some,
CBS was a business deal too, giving up what they gave up, selling out their people so that a local woman, Redstone, could make a few $1 billion.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, it's wonderful to see you, Lee Pelton, and congratulations on these food grants. That's terrific. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Lee Pelton. We have been speaking with Lee Pelton, President and CEO of the Great Boston Foundation, member of GBH's Board of Trustees, and he previously served as the 12th president of Emerson College. Lee, thanks very much again for coming in. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to bring you Two More Things, our great Two More Things segment, such as it is. I'm Marjorie Egan. Here's Jim Browdy. Listen to BPR on 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
More and more American Jews whose parents and grandparents fled Germany during World War II are getting German citizenship. For some, it's out of concern for political shifts in the U.S.
It's not necessarily that I'd want to go to Germany, but at least I want an option to go someplace if things get very bad here.
I'm Elsa Chang. That's on the next All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you. And Direct Tire and Auto Service, offering a full range of services, including brakes, shocks, diagnostics, and AC work. Direct Tire and Auto Service. Not just service, customer service. DirectTire.com. And Morningside Music Bridge, returning to Boston. The summer program shines a spotlight on young classical musicians from around the world, with concerts now through August 1st at New England Conservatory. mmb.international.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live from the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Let me quote Marjorie. It's time for our great Two More Things, such as it is.
Such as it is.
A few minutes
That's
to
right.
rant and rave. Nothing like praising your own work.
Okay, well, I'm a little nervous about this
What do you have today?
Well, here we go. Okay, everybody knows about the couple that was caught canoodling at the Coldplay concert, and the guy was the CEO, and she was the head of human resources, and they were both married to other people.
Yeah.
So this is a great little story. I'm going to quote from the New York Times. To take control of a scandal that turned a previously obscure data operations firm into a household name overnight requires some skillful cunning. And they may have achieved this by going out. It's not clear who hired whom or how this happened. But in any case, astronomer hired Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, I saw this.
Who gave us conscious uncoupling when she and the Coldplay frontman, Chris Martin, got divorced. She's his ex-wife.
Yeah.
So here she is with this rather clever and turn on what happened at the Coldplay concert. Here she is in a PSA poking fun at the scandal.
Thank you for your interest in Astronomer. Hi, I'm Gwyneth Paltrow. I've been hired on a very temporary basis to speak on behalf of the 300-plus employees at Astronomer. Astronomer has gotten a lot of questions over the last few days, and they wanted me to answer the most common ones. Yes. Astronomer is the best place to run Apache Airflow, unifying the experience of running data, ML, and AI pipelines at scale. We've been thrilled so many people have a newfound interest in data workflow automation. As for the other questions we've received, yes, there is still room available at our Beyond Analytics event in September. We will now be returning to what we do best, delivering game-changing results for our customers. Thank you for your interest in Astronomer.
That's pretty clever.
Now, I should explain that the questions were things like WTF and, talking about, these couple carrying on. But the last time they posted something, Astronomer posted something, they received something like 135 likes. So this time, this video with Paltrow so far has received 64,000 likes, and on YouTube it has been viewed more than 500,000 times.
But I still don't understand. Did they hire her to do this, or did she do it on her own as a clever thing? 'Cause she's married to the Coldplay guy.
As I said, from the
don't
New York
know?
Times, they do not know how this happened. If she volunteered her services or if they sought her out, we do not know that. Jim, maybe you can get to the bottom of that.
Can I tell you one thing, if I may? That was a great one more thing, such as it is.
Such as it is. Okay.
Now I'm
ready
gonna
for yours.
I'm going to talk about eggs.
Okay.
Because I eat a lot of eggs.
We had eggs this morning.
If people ask me how many, I usually evade the question because we have been led to believe that it's bad for your cholesterol till now. There's a new study out of one of the most esteemed universities in the world, the University of South Australia, which I'm sure you know quite a bit about.
Very well,
that says
very well.
Eggs have long been unfairly cracked by, did you get that one? Cracked, thank you, by outdated dietary advice. They say there's too much focus on high in cholesterol, not enough on the fact that it's low in saturated fat. You with me so far?
Eggs are?
Yes, that is a fact.
I didn't know that.
So, but the high dietary cholesterol does not raise bad cholesterol as we thought. It was the saturated fat that did it. Do you
What about
understand
if you load them up with mayonnaise?
Okay, fine. I'm not talking about the mayonnaise.
Okay.
Now, I stopped reading there for fear that it might get worse as we went along, but so far it is good. This is part of what Marjorie always talks about. Coffee's good for you, coffee's bad for you. Butter's good for you, butter's bad for you. My advice is find the one study that supports what you want, then go with that. It's sort of like RFK Jr. and vaccines. He finds one crackpot, and maybe that's a bad example, but the bottom line of my one more thing, Marjorie,
Yes, Jim.
which was great, such as it is, have an egg. That's it. We each had one this morning.
A celebratory moment.
I had 3 this morning.
Yeah, you had 3 this
I
morning.
had a
and I had
hard-boiled
one.
egg,
Yep.
and I made 2 at home.
Yeah, we didn't have any mayonnaise on the hard-boiled eggs, but
No.
they were pretty good despite
Thank
that.
you.
Okay, that was
You know
wonderful,
what's
Jim.
in my egg, by the way?
What?
Cut up knockwurst, which is really healthy for you. You fry a little piece, slice the knockwurst, you fry a couple of pieces, and then you dump the eggs in, and then you eat it up.
That sounds great.
It's
I'm not
really
even sure what
healthy.
not work. What is it called?
Knockwurst, a big hot dog.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Very healthy.
Okay, sounds good. We're out of time.
We're out of
Thank
time.
God. Coming
Thank
up
God.
after the 1 o'clock news,
That was
Foodman
great,
Corby Kummer
such as it is.
here with an expose on watermelons, disappearing seeds,
Yeah.
and he's also going to give us a remembrance of his good friend Tom Lehrer, who just passed away. I'm Marjorie Egan, he's Jim Browder. You're listening to Boston Public Radio and 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
GBH Radio is where you come to find serious news and analysis of local, national, and international stories. It's not just nice to have, it's a have to have. Support this trusted home for fact-based journalism at gbhnews.org.
Support for GBH comes from you and Rockland Trust Bank, helping foster healthy relationships with money by providing education and resources to the community, one neighborhood at a time. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC. And Mass General Brigham. Their leading heart and vascular specialists are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browder. You had an hour 3 of BPR live from the library. Up first this hour, while the world stands by while people starve in Gaza, Chef Jose Andres' World Central Kitchen is, of course, stepping in. We'll talk about his efforts with food policy analyst Corby Kummer. Plus, he'll remember his friend, the late, brilliant satirist, Tom Lehrer.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then on a hot, steamy summer day, it's also peak summer fruit season. Peaches, berries, mangoes, watermelon, nectarines. What in-season fruit are you indulging in? And what are your tricks for managing kitchen fruit flies? Some people don't like fruit, Jim. What's the summer fruit to you? Give us a call or text next in the third hour BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. The European Union is trying to sell the new trade deal it struck with the U.S. to the bloc's member states. faced with the threat of a 30% tariff on most EU goods come Friday. Last Sunday, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen accepted President Trump's offer to pay half that in exchange for sparing tariffs on U.S. goods that enter Europe. But the details of which industries will be covered under this trade pact have yet to be ironed out. The U.S. economics editor for The Economist, Archie Hall, spoke with NPR about the EU's bid to avoid a protracted trade war.
There's those 15% tariffs on the American side, and that's not paralleled on the European side. And so the decision that seems to be made by the European leadership is that effectively it was more important to avoid a kind of tit-for-tat retaliatory trade war situation, which would have potentially harmed both sides and particularly harmed Europe as probably the more vulnerable side in these negotiations.
Archie Hall on NPR's Here and Now. Some of the Venezuelan men deported from the U.S. to El Salvador are describing their stay in a maximum security prison. NPR Sergio Martinez Beltran reports the men say they were beaten, sexually abused, and denied adequate food.
One of the men is 19-year-old Carlos Daniel Terán. He was sent to Secot in March as part of President Trump's mass deportation efforts.
Eso es un infierno de que por allá.
That was hell, says Terán. He says guards at Secot stomped on the men with their heavy boots and hit them with batons. He says one time they shot at them with rubber pellets. El Salvador's government did not respond to a request for comment. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security called the allegations, quote, false sub-stories. The Trump administration paid El Salvador $6 million to house the men. The White House said they were gang members, but many of them, including Terán, do not have a criminal record in the U.S. Sergio Martinez Beltran, NPR News.
The drug maker Novo Nordisk is slashing its sales forecast for its obesity drug Wegovy. The company shares are down more than 21% in midday trading. Here's NPR's Sydney Lupkin.
Novo Nordisk says sales of its obesity medicine, Wegovy, are expected to grow no more than 14% this year. That's down from its spring prediction of up to 21%. The company blames cheaper alternatives made by compounding pharmacies. Compounding pharmacies are allowed to make what are essentially copies of drugs when they're in short supply. The Food and Drug Administration ruled the shortage of Wegovy over earlier this year, but some compounders are testing the legal landscape. They're customizing obesity drugs for patients by adding vitamins or tweaking doses. Novo Nordisk says it's pursuing multiple strategies to end the practice, including litigation. Sydney Lupkin, NPR News.
The Dow's down more than 200 points. S&P's fallen 13. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The Nantucket Select Board has presented Vineyard Wind with a list of demands to try to avert any future trouble stemming from the offshore wind farm. The Select Board went public with its demands after what it says has been a year of excuses from Vineyard Wind. Select Board member Brooke Moore said today at today's news conference that one of the town's concerns is Vineyard Wind's failure to install a lighting system on the turbines that is only activated when aircraft are in the area.
Due to lengthy delays in their activation of the required lighting reduction system on their turbines, they've been polluting our night sky with dozens of blinking red lights for several years now.
The Select Board says it could ultimately sue Vineyard Wind if its demands are not met. The city of Northampton has a whole lot of people who want to be in elected office. As the Daily Hampshire Gazette reports, regardless of the eventual outcome, the 2025 municipal election already appears to be a historic one for the Western Mass community. More than 45 candidates successfully submitted nomination papers to run for various offices, including a whopping 23 candidates for city council. City Clerk Pamela Powers says even more people had pulled nomination papers but had not submitted the required signatures before the deadline, and that means that they will not be on the ballot. But 45 candidates so far. Red Sox Twins play Game 2 of their 3-game series tonight in Minnesota. 94 degrees in Boston right now. Hazy, hot, and Henry. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive Insurance with Snapshot, a personalized program that bases rates on safe driving habits.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. Thank you. and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Going to be back here tomorrow and Friday. Free air conditioning, Jim. It's something to think about with this really, really hot weather.
You're supposed to say hi, Jim.
Hello, Jim.
Hi, Marjorie. How are you?
Fine.
We're joined now in person. He's
in person,
here.
I know.
It's odd. By Corby Kummer. We're glad to see you. I didn't mean we weren't. Food policy analyst, multiple James Beard winner. He's executive director of, that's rather tepid applause for a superstar food guy. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. He's executive director of the Food and Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, senior editor at The Atlantic, senior lecturer at the Tuss Friedman School of Nutrition, Science, and Policy. Hello, Corby Kummer.
Hello, Jim. Hello, Marjorie. I follow instructions.
Yeah.
Hello, Jim.
You're told. Oh, I see. I got it. Okay, good.
So you knew the great satirist, lyricist, clever lyricist, whatever you want to describe, Tom Lehrer. People may know him as well. The headline called him a Cold War era satirist and obituary. Before you tell us about him, we're going to play people a little sound. This is Tom Lehrer singing "Poisoning Pigeons in the Park" back in 1967.
All the world seems in tune on a spring afternoon when we're poisoning pigeons in the park. Every Sunday you'll see my sweetheart and me as we poison the pigeons in the park. When they see us coming, the birdies all try and hide, but they still go for peanuts when coated with a cyanide. The sun's shining bright, everything seems all right when we're poisoning pigeons in the park.
Okay, he just passed away. I think he was 97.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about him.
And how did you know him? You may have told us a few weeks ago, and I forgot. How do you know him?
There is a great salonière, a woman who knew everybody and was herself a distinguished teacher at the Kennedy School of Government named Dorothy Zinberg. And she kind of collected people. And her great friend was Tom Lehrer, whom, while she was getting her PhD in the 60s, tutored her in math. And he became an adopted member of the Zinberg family. Her late husband, Norman, was a distinguished psychiatrist, drug addiction researcher. There's a wing in HIV treatment at Cambridge City Hospital named for him. They were a great couple, but he became a member of their family, and he would have sing-alongs. And everybody gathered around the piano. One of them was Justice Breyer, who was a great Danny Kaye fan, and they would trade
another
Danny
Cambridge
Kaye
resident,
lyrics.
by the way.
Yes, both before and after. He was during and after his being on the Supreme Court. And because I knew all of the verses to a certain old Coward song and nobody else did, you know, in musical chairs, you're the last one standing, I caught his attention. And that was the beginning of the 90s, and a great friendship started.
Listen to this. All I could think of when I read Tom Lehrer's obituary was when I came home from college and played the Vatican rag from my Irish Catholic fourth-degree Knights of Columbus father who had a fabulous sense of humor. It was nonetheless the last time I played the Vatican rag from my father.
You know,
he was very funny about that and so many other things.
I think I read this, but I also thought it before I read it. In addition to how incredibly clever and funny he was, he seemed to usher in a lot of the late night comedians, I'm trying to say, and hosts seem to me to be Tom Lehrer-esque kind of thing. Is that
Yeah, you have to be dry as dust, subversive, have a complete command of current events, but then turn them slightly at an angle on their head, and people don't realize that you've somewhat plunged in the knife until 5 seconds later because you said it so sly, deadpan, and then you get it. He and Moritz Saal, and to an extent Lenny Bruce, were taking ripping stories from the headlines, making fun of them, also making people aware, I have to follow the news if I'm going to get this humor. So it leads straight to Jon Stewart, for example.
I would agree with that completely. Tom Lehrer, great loss. So somebody who is another legend, this one still among us, thankfully, is your buddy Jose Andres in the World Central Kitchen. And I thought we'd start talking about what he's doing or attempting to do in Gaza at great risk to his people, I should say. But Marjorie and we were talking this morning, once you update us on that, how does he even do what he does in war zones like he did? We know what he did in Ukraine, for example. So start with Gaza. What is World Central Kitchen trying to do there?
Well, they have been serving meals in Gaza since October 7th or soon after the strife began. And as we all read right now, food and a blockade of getting ingredients and fresh food, plus firing on people waiting for food, is of immense risk to anybody who lives in Gaza. So World Central Kitchen, which Jose Andres began long ago, and has he in Cuba and then in Puerto Rico during hurricane relief, he realized that he could fill a gap that others did not, which was going into disaster areas where it was immensely hard to bring in supplies and people. I would say, he was a hero in Ukraine. He was a hero in very difficult areas. Gaza has been the most challenging, the most difficult. 6 members of the World Central Kitchen team were killed.
Yes.
Even though if you look at the videos from the top of the truck, very clearly marked Food Relief World Central Kitchen, and yet they were bombed by Israel. And so they died. And Israel says that they gave clear advance warning, that they shouldn't have been there. Nonetheless, it's been at immense risk to the people who were there. And now, in 2025, they've twice had to interrupt the fresh food preparation because they can't get the fresh food in. What they do is distribute drinkable water and bread in the interim. But they're going on, and nothing is stopping them. Usually they can make 60,000 meals a day when they can get their food supplies in, and they're at their second, since July 19th, I think, their second pause of this year.
How do they get the food
And also, how do they
in?
prevent there being a stampede of people that are desperate for food coming to where they are? That's what I wonder.
To my knowledge, and I have many friends who've worked at World Central Kitchen, I have not asked them the mechanics. They work with local on-the-ground agencies. They coordinate with the United Nations, with other relief agencies. So it's not like they're marching in as a brigade of completely unknown people. They're always making on-the-ground alliances with security, and they themselves know how to manage lines, but really it's working with the other relief organizations.
You may not remember this, but when we first met a couple of decades ago, Marty and I were on our way to Washington for an inauguration week or whatever it was, and I was asking for restaurant recommendations, and I told you that my favorite restaurant in Washington was Zatinia, and you said, by the way, it's owned by this wonderful guy, Jose Andres, and I think all I knew at the time was he was taking on Trump, or maybe that was a little bit later.
He sued Trump, or Trump sued him, or something.
Is his whole career as a chef and restaurateur been doing these humanitarian things, or is this a mid-career sort of addition for him?
It's kind of mid-career. So his mother was a nurse. I forget what his father did. He grew up with the idea of health and public service. And then there is a fantastic Washington organization called DC Central Kitchen, which is a food bank, a job training program for returning citizens. It operates corner stores now so that fresh food can come to areas that don't have fresh food. It's a very inspirational place started by a guy named Robert Egger. Jose worked for there. He was then on the board, then he was chair of the board, and he decided, well, I want to go global because I'm from Spain and I see the need globally. Can I use your name? So he started World Central Kitchen. It's not affiliated with DC Central Kitchen, but it's had a nice halo effect on donations for DC Central
Speaking
Kitchen.
of DC, it's not just in war zones. When the government was shut down a bunch of years ago and federal workers were short on money, World Central Kitchen was feeding people in Washington, D.C.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
That's right.
He is really incredible. There's a Nobel Peace Prize person as opposed to
He's been nominated, and I hope he will be awarded it.
I hope so, too. We're talking to Corby Kummer.
So with the big, beautiful bill, so-called, there's been a lot of concern about the food system, farmers, a market for farmers. There's a headline in one of your favorite organizations, Civil Eats, talking about how child care centers could possibly strengthen local food systems. So tell us what they argued.
Well, it's that you can get more funding for Head Start, early Head Start, and with it you can buy food. And there have been so many challenges to buying food. The USDA, during the pandemic and extended under the Biden administration beyond the pandemic, had farm to school, $1 billion to support local farms, including hundreds locally and in Massachusetts. And it ended, but child care money is still available. And, research says it takes 8 to 15 exposures to fresh food before kids will eat it, and they're right there. And they can be the laboratory for inculcating a love of fruits and vegetables.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I'd forgot. In this story, they talk about a low or moderate income family can't afford to feed their kid something 8 to 15 times that they're not going to eat, in the hopes that by the 15th or the 9th time, they will eat something healthy. And that, sounds narrow, but it's really important. I mean, they have the ability, assuming the federal money doesn't dry up there too, to go through that exercise and get the kid on a healthy diet based upon the 8-15 rule.
It does say that the story does say that the U.S. Department of Agriculture under Biden expanded this local food for schools program to include child care centers, but the Trump administration has terminated the program. Yeah. So the whole situation sounds pretty precarious.
Oh, it's very precarious. And also, North Carolina has been one of the most... North Carolina and Massachusetts have been the best states for statewide nutrition interventions.
Really?
That help, California also, but it's more complicated in California. But they've been incredibly innovative with so-called 1115 Medicaid waivers that allow Medicaid money to be used for non-classic healthcare costs, like food and housing. North Carolina was fantastic, but the North Carolina state legislature paused it. We're also worried about the feds pulling back. So North Carolina is in this child care story as one of the most innovative states.
In terms of food and the feds, we should just mention in passing, we read a piece, we've talked to you ad nauseum and others about the food stamp, the SNAP cuts, and what that will mean for the individual family. One of the things we never mention is if those families don't have money to buy food, adequate amounts of food, not only do they suffer, but a lot of local grocery stores, which are dependent upon low and moderate income people's dollars, in many cases they're being SNAP funding, are at risk as well. So the potential for not only pain to the families, but for more supermarket deserts in this country as a result of it is pretty large.
Oh, it's horrible. Various estimates of every dollar of food stamp money brings in $7 of impact on local jobs, on a local economy, on it used to be buying for farms. A recent study said that I think 143,000 food-related jobs in agriculture, retail, grocery, and food processing can be lost with the recent SNAP cuts. And I intend to talk ad nauseum about it until the data are in about what the impact is.
But didn't you, or I hope if I confuse you with somebody else, didn't you criticize Mom Donnie's idea to open a city-owned supermarket in each of the 5 boroughs? That was you, wasn't it?
It was I.
Okay.
But then you pointed out it's only 1 per borough, and
That's
it's going to
correct.
be an experiment to find out does it work. I don't think cities should be in the business of running grocery stores.
Even if it turns out that privately owned grocery stores are shut down because government support for their customers is disappearing?
Absolutely, that would be fantastic. But the challenge is in rural areas that will become food deserts. It's not so much in big cities that often do have places you can buy fresh food.
Going to Corby Kummer.
So this is a great story in the New York Times about M&Ms. We all know M&Ms. Apparently, they have not just regular M&Ms, but they have peanut M&Ms. And because of climate change, peanuts are struggling. So they're now at M&Ms in search for the next perfect peanut that will not become rancid.
So, Mara and Kim Severson, great in publicizing Mars, which I believe in because they're a privately owned company and they can do really good things like putting the cacao genome online for free, spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to identify it. So
Don't rush over that. It's sort of like OpenAI. This guy, whoever Mars was, who created this
Forrest
thing,
Mars,
was dedicated to this notion that whatever we discover, everybody should benefit from.
Yeah, starting to do good in, and they also, in the 1960s, they also started research on a nitrogen-fixing corn plant, which is huge because it can prevent huge expenses for nitrogen fertilizer and nitrogen runoff. They started it. The Bayer company has continued it, and it is fantastic to help the whole world, but it's private industry, which we're all going to have to rely on. Mars, peanuts. So what did they do? They had to develop, it's the hero ingredient for peanut M&Ms.
Hero ingredient.
That's
I love
a real expression, the hero ingredient. But they were rancid. They didn't have an even shape, and so
climate change because of climate
70s
change?
and 80s. No, they had a fabulous peanut that they had going. About the weight of 350 fully loaded 747 airplanes, 300 million pounds of peanuts each year. But after they worked for years to get the perfect peanut, it started to the yields dropped because of climate change. So now they're back to the drawing board to find how do I grow it. And they're looking into many, many wild peanut plants, which are weather tolerant and drought resistant. They just grow teeny tiny kind of useless peanuts.
What's the primary source of peanuts in the world?
Not Georgia?
No, it is Georgia, but I recently took my food leaders fellowship, and I think South Carolina. I took them to Starkville, Mississippi, because 2 of my food leaders fellows got their degrees in agronomy at Mississippi State. At the same time, one black 7th generation farmer who has a foundation for credit and capital for black farmers, and one white good old boy who's farming land his family's had since 1820, but convincing other good old boys to switch to regenerative agriculture. They met at my fellowship. So they convinced the group, for your second meeting, come on down to Starkville. So we went to a huge peanut processing facility. So Mississippi and the Delta is big peanut growing land. And we were dwarfed by mountains, pyramids of peanuts. So there's lots of peanut sorting facilities in the South. Georgia is the biggest, but I think North Carolina and South Carolina are huge too.
Okay, so I'm going to be ridiculed for this, not only by you and Marjorie, but by listeners. Do peanuts grow by themselves in a shell, one at a time kind of thing? Like the peanut we eat in a shell, like at Fenway.
Yeah.
When the concessionaires are not on strike, we eat them. Is that how they grow? One peanut at a time?
They grow on vines. They grow on vines
do?
on the ground, sort of like zucchini, running
do?
vines, and then there's lots and lots of these different clusters. They have to be dried for a long time because that wonderful crackling shell is the result of weeks of drying.
Oh, it is.
It starts out fresh and green. Like
Did you know that
walnuts.
or not?
I knew that there's nuts that grow in trees and nuts that don't grow on trees, and I guess the peanuts are the ones that grow not on trees but on vines.
They are not tree nuts.
They're
so
not tree
often
nuts.
people who are allergic to ground nuts, peanuts, are not allergic
that's
to
true.
tree nuts.
Or they can eat the tree nuts and they can't eat they can eat the peanuts but they can't eat the walnuts or the.
I didn't know that.
Almonds.
Yeah.
Can I say one thing
weird.
to you, Marjorie?
Yes, Jim.
Pine nuts, macadamia nuts. Anybody know what that? You don't know where that's from?
No.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
It's from Best in Show. The guy that's driving up from the south.
Christopher Guest.
He's got a hound dog in his car with him when he's talking about
pine
he
nuts,
can name all the different kind of nuts.
Macadamia
yeah,
nuts.
we're goofing it up. There's a bunch of more
Whatever.
nuts that he mentions.
Can you get that sound, please? Thank you very much, Jamie. Okay,
but,
so Corby, inspire. Go ahead, Margaret.
Well, I was just going to say, in just a few minutes, we're going to talk to our listeners about summer fruits, because I happen to be big time into summer fruits. But there was this fascinating story in Eater.com about how seeds in watermelons are becoming passé. People don't like seeds.
What is it? 92% are seedless? Is that what it said?
A whopping 92% of all watermelon shipped from farms are seedless.
That's right, are seedless.
For 10 years.
So what has happened to the seeds in the watermelons?
They said goodbye, Marjorie.
They said goodbye.
Seedless watermelons were originally developed in Japan, but they were very hard to grow and very finicky. They got easier to grow, and they sort of took over U.S. agriculture. First of all, they can be smaller. And, the watermelon of our youth were ginormous. And so you would get a half, maybe, or a quarter. The part that really caught my attention was that the seeds, when you buy them, release ethylene gas, and therefore the middle becomes squishy.
Yeah.
And, that sort of mushy texture we don't like. I didn't realize that's because they continue to release this gas, which is fantastic for ripening fruit like pears and apples. You need ethylene gas, but you don't want it inside your watermelon with those seeds. So not only is it, it's a pastime to spit out seeds, and I'm sure you miss it, and you can probably find some seeded watermelon, but it's much easier. The flesh stays crisper, and it's just as sweet, so it's a good deal.
How do you grow a watermelon without a seed? Not without a seed in it. Where does the seed come from that you grow the seedless watermelon from?
Around.
First of all, they're not entirely seedless.
They're not?
So they've always got, if you
a little white kind of thing
White
happening
seeds,
there?
little white seeds.
But also
Like
most of these
cantaloupes.
are always germinated from seeds that are sprouted. Like nobody on farms just plants seeds. They plant seedlings that have been grown in a greenhouse. So I don't know how this is done in Seed Savers, but I do know that all seedless watermelons have seeds.
Huh. So, Marjorie...
They originally had seeds, Jim. We don't have to worry about spitting them out anymore.
I didn't spit them out. Did you spit them out?
I don't know what I did
Of
with
course
them.
you
No, you
spat
didn't.
them
You
out.
sliced the watermelon, used a little knife or a spoon, and you tossed the seeds. You didn't spit them out.
I think if you were to cook
I don't like
out,
spitting them out.
like a 4th of July cookout, you spit them out right in the grass.
You do?
Yeah, I think you did.
So, Corby, Marjorie...
Questioning why didn't the watermelons spring up all around where people spit the seeds?
that's a great question.
You have to grow them from seed, like...
Oh, you have to grow them from seeds.
Okay, so Corby, as I was trying to say here, Marjorie forced our whole team this morning to agree that our final discussion with the listeners will be about summer fruits, which I have to be honest about. In fairness to Marjorie, nobody wanted to do it except her. So we decided to humor her to do it. So what is your favorite? Let me say two things. One, what's your favorite summer fruit? And two, Marjorie's absurd position, which she's going to expand upon in about 3 minutes, is that you should not even eat year-round fruits like a pineapple in summer. What is the reason for that again?
Because summer is the times for berries, like blueberries and raspberries and blackberries and peaches and nectarines. And the wintertime is not, that's not when they're generally grown.
That's ridiculous.
So you can get a pineapple in February because it's grown elsewhere.
Okay.
But around here we have all these wonderful berries growing, and this is the prime season. That's
That's a
why.
ridiculous analysis.
What do you think?
It is so wrong. You should always buy local, and if something is grown on local farms, like at the farmers market right
That's a
here
good
at
point.
Cotton
That's right.
Square,
That's a good
go
point.
and buy that. And
Trenni went
also,
there.
try gooseberries and currants. So these
What is
are
a gooseberry?
Gooseberries.
What is a gooseberry?
It's Gooseberry
gooseberry
Island.
is a little bigger than a blueberry. It has a mottled green and red skin. It's really tart, but it is fantastic. It's full of pectin, and if you stew it with strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, it makes this wonderful, refreshing compote.
Let me add one last thing, because
Also
you're
currants.
sharing expertise.
We do have a great farmers market over there.
I know, that's what he's talking about.
Yep.
I don't like how blackberries feel in my mouth. Do you have a solution for that?
Well, there's
I don't like all the little bumps in it. You know what I mean?
So there are so many different kinds of blackberries. Most of the kind that you get from Driscoll and from Washington State are like, they're like big raspberries, but even less seedy.
Too
They're
many
terribly
bumps in them,
soft. The local blackberries are much seedier, and you should probably wait for them to be made into a jam. You'll like the jam better.
Jim doesn't like the bumps. What about the cherries, the ones that are not like red, but they are like yellow and orange?
I love that.
What do you call
Sour cherries are the best. Thank you. They are the best summer fruit. A friend of mine lives for them. They're only in season about 2 weeks a year, and she made this fantastic pie.
I forget what they're
They
called.
make the best pie, sour cherries.
Yeah, but isn't there another name for them? The ones that are expensive.
Queen Anne's?
I don't know, but they're
Queen
expensive.
Anne's are yellow.
I think actually they're called cherries. I believe
they're
they
called
are.
cherries.
Orange and yellow cherries.
Montmercy are the plain red ones.
Montmercy.
Okay, that was an
I'm writing
excellent
that
contribution
down.
to the discussion.
Jim
Corby
is looking
Kummer.
for bump-free blackberries, which a texter or somebody says is called a grape. Jim.
Okay. I sort of like grapes, but I'm not a devotee.
Yeah,
So-
red grapes. They're not a summertime fruit around here. Where do we grow grapes?
We grow Concord grapes because wine
Concord
grapes
grapes, of
and
course.
Thompson seedless don't grow particularly well here.
Okay.
You can go and get Concord grapes right at the
They have a
farmer's
seed in
market,
them, though,
but
too.
in a couple of weeks. They're not quite in season.
Okay, nice to see you, Corby
Thank you,
Kummer.
Corby.
Thank you for physically showing up.
We have been speaking
We
with
love it when
Corby
you
Kummer.
come.
Actually saw him in person, saw an adorable picture of somebody in his family, too. Very, very cute.
Great
that
news to
little
put
person.
you on before you tease the next segment. It's
Yeah.
great news thanks to Politico. EPA to revoke 2009 finding that climate pollution endangers humans. I mean, it's just...
Can you believe it?
No, I cannot believe it.
It's
Every
like-
one of these I read, I can't believe it.
Like ruining everything.
Ruining everything.
Yeah.
Not
Speaking
to
of
mention,
climate
there's
change.
probably one scientist in the world who believes this, and that's the guy who probably wrote the press release.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, we've been speaking with Corby Kummer. He's Executive Director of the Food and
Yep.
Society Policy Program at the Aspen Institute, a Senior Editor at The Atlantic, and a Senior Lecturer at the Tufts Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy. Thank you to Corby. Okay, coming up, as Jim said, we're going to open the lines to get your thoughts on summer fruits. Why on earth are you picking a pineapple up at the grocery store right now when there are seasonably fresh nectarines and peaches and blueberries and blackberries and those blackberries with the bumps or without the bumps that Jim doesn't like? Okay, that's next on Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, Harvard faculty are pushing back on reports that the university may settle with the Trump administration for $500 million. Tenants are urging state leaders to step in and limit rent hikes. And U.S. politics has some American Jews reclaiming their German citizenship. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH's All Things Considered.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you. And Mass General Brigham. Their leading heart and vascular specialists are committed to providing breakthrough care to patients with cutting-edge research and innovative treatments. Learn more at massgeneralbrigham.org/heart. And the Museum of Science, presenting the new exhibit, Perception Playground, which explores how your brain shapes your understanding of reality. Tickets at mos.org.
Welcome back to VPR. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy. We're live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH. I want to expand upon what I said about our morning meeting a little bit more here. Little window, I guess you could say, in our morning editorial process. Usually, Marjorie's staff, as we call them, or as she calls them, rolls into our morning meeting with a long list of pretty well thought out pitches for these call-in topics. Or I usually sort of, I don't know how you describe it, sort of half listen while mindlessly scrolling through TikTok and sort of gruffly vetoing 99% of the topics. I generally do say things like, next, anything else more interesting? Marjorie's a little more polite. From time to time, Marjorie comes to the table in the morning with her own issue du jour.
That's right.
Today, she would not shut up about the joys and wonders of summer fruit. So here we are at 877-301-8970. Marjorie seems to think people are morally wrong for purchasing pineapples from the grocery store. By the way, I'm with Corby, though. You should buy from local farmers. Yeah. And as Kim from Foster, Rhode Island text, Marjorie, please direct me to a local pineapple farm.
There
that is
are
a problem.
no local pineapple farms.
Okay, so there are plenty of in-season fruits right now, like nectarines, peaches, plums, whatever berry is in season. I happen to think a pineapple any time of year is delightful, but I am troubled by you can't buy it from a local farm. So we thought I'd put it to you, or at least give Marjorie the chance to talk about whatever the hell winter fruits are. Here's the number, 877-301-8970. Call or text. Talk about your berries and your stone fruits, the bounty of the land.
You forgot something.
What is your favorite summer fruit and why? You have to explain why you like it at 877-301-8970.
Oh, well, our call screen just disappeared.
They'll fix it.
Oh, Jim did something wrong.
So what are you going to say?
A lot of people are texting. You forgot the issue of watermelon seeds. You know, what is the way to get rid of seeds in the watermelon? You know, if you're at a cookout, you can spit them on the ground, but in general, suppose you're sitting at the dinner table. And a lot of people are talking about their experiences with one texter says, I remember spitting watermelon seeds as a child quite fondly, but I learned the seeds are nutritious, so now I chew them up with the fruit. They're nutty and delicious. And this person knows, this is Kathy from Maine. She knows a lot about fruit. She says, seedless watermelon has been the rule for decades. Unfortunately, they're not as sweet. Melons with seeds are hard to find. We searched the South. My sons schooled me in their health class that melons are the ovaries of the plants. Did you know that?
No.
I did not know that either. And watermelons with seeds are better. And then also kids can spit the seeds out and it becomes a youthful game. So there's a lot of issues around seeds in watermelons.
Did you spit seeds out when you were a kid?
I think I did at cookouts, because you have them at cookouts. Remember cookouts, everybody, toss them, cut them into triangles, and you have the triangle of the watermelon with the rind at the end, and then you'd have the seeds in the middle of the watermelon. But I mean, it's great. Peaches are summer fruits. Nectarines are summer fruits. Raspberries are summer fruits. I thought strawberries were summer fruits, but Jamie told me actually they're spring fruits. Mostly their season is in June. Blueberries go all summer long. They're summer.
How about apricots? You're not even mentioning apricots. They're fabulous.
I don't know anything about apricots.
So I'm telling you, apricots. By the way,
Are they a summer
anonymous.
food? Do we grow apricots around here?
I have no idea. Anonymous texter makes a very good point. Upside down pineapples are good in every season. Read Chris Bermuda, you'll figure that out.
Okay.
877-301-8970. And by the way, if anybody else is troubled by the texture of a blackberry, I have a real dilemma. I mentioned this to Corby. I love the taste of blackberries. I don't like all the bumps on the blackberry. Do you? Are you troubled by the bumps?
I'm not at all troubled by the bumps on the blackberry. No, I'm not.
Okay.
And Concord grapes that Corby mentioned, people were joking that a grape is a blackberry without any bumps in it. We do have Concord grapes.
Don't they have a little tiny seed though in the middle?
Well, a lot of grapes have seeds.
They
in
do?
them. Yeah.
What other grape has a seed in it?
A lot of red grapes
They
have
do?
seeds in them. Yeah,
Wow.
You can get seedless ones or not seedless ones. Most green grapes are seedless. Anyway, the watermelon is an iconic summer fruit. Can be harvested all year round, like Florida, for example, in some states. But usually around here, the season lasts from the end of spring until the beginning of fall.
Let me
And
read an anonymous
the
text.
cherry I talked about, Jim.
Oh my God!
It's Rainier cherries.
Rainier.
R-A-I-N-E-R.
Rainier,
Those are
yeah.
the ones. They're expensive, a little yellow.
I know what they are.
And orange, and they're really.
Can I
delicious.
add one more thing to
yes.
the cut? And it's not me because I forgot. I meant to say this. The anonymous texter says this. Grilled peaches are fantastic on your barbecue. In fact, I would argue, Marjorie, almost any grilled summer fruit. You ever grilled a watermelon?
Well, I saw the recipe for it today.
It is
You're
fabulous.
supposed to grill watermelons. I'm not much of a cook, Jim, so you grill.
Oh, really? I hadn't noticed that.
You grill the
Yeah,
watermelon. Let
that's
me know
fine.
how it goes.
No, you can always make
877 what?
your chicken dish and add a little watermelon to that.
877-301-8970. Oh, here's an anonymous texter. Jim, your disdain is endless if you don't get your own way.
Exactly.
I hope you apologize to Marjorie and her team. Maybe you need a timeout.
And well, you didn't finish. They
That was
said,
very
grow
good.
up.
Grow up. Yeah, okay.
It is Marjorie's team.
So how do you feel about fruits in the summertime? I mean, you can put it on top of ice cream. You can put it on top of creme fraiche. You can do, you know what I do? It's not very good for you because
What is it?
Well,
Whipped cream.
Blueberries and heavy cream.
Heavy cream.
Just straight
It's good
old
for you.
heavy cream.
Can
Pour
I
it
tell
on
you-
with sugar. You know, we shouldn't have the sugar either, but
Okay, fine.
blueberries or nectarines or peaches with heavy cream. Oh my God!
Can I tell you a
Doesn't get any better
wildly
than that.
interesting story before we start taking
Yep.
phone
Yep.
calls? My whole life, I didn't eat peaches. Now, why didn't I eat peaches?
You didn't like the Almond Brothers.
That's right. That's right. It's a good
peach.
one. They tickled the back of my throat and were troubling.
Oh, maybe you're
Then
allergic.
I forgot that I didn't like them because of the tickle about 15 years ago. You with me? Are you paying attention to
I
this?
am.
Okay, great. About 15 years ago, I forgot that I didn't like them, and someone offered me a peach, and I ate the peach. As I'm eating the peach, this is a really good story, I realized that I'd never eaten peaches because they tickled the back of my throat. Guess what happened?
It didn't happen.
Did not tickle the back of my
There you
throat.
go, Jim.
So
That was a
purely-
really good one.
Thank you. I knew you'd like it. Thank you. So as a result, a total serendipity, because I
Okay.
forgot my history with
Yep.
peaches. For the last 15 years, I have enjoyed a peach after a peach after a peach.
Aren't they the best?
They are just
And
extraordinary.
then you can get the yellow peaches
Yeah.
or the white peaches.
Yeah.
The yellow nectarines or the white.
You know what they
nectarines.
don't do anymore? Tickle the back of my
They
throat.
don't tickle the back of
That's
your
it.
throat. That's good.
Great story,
Listen to this.
Jim.
It was
What?
a great story.
Thank you.
I was on a town's 300th anniversary committee, says a texter.
Yeah.
We were featuring a watermelon seed spitting contest, and it took a year to find seeded watermelon that they found at a small organic farm in North Carolina. Can you imagine having a
story.
watermelon seed spitting contest?
I'd love to be
That
one
would
of
be a
those.
riot.
How
Okay,
about
let's-
eating them, as that other person said a minute ago?
I know. They said they ate them. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. You might have
No.
a watermelon growing in your stomach. Elizabeth from Malden, thank you for
Hi,
calling.
Elizabeth. Thanks for calling.
Hi.
Hi.
First time, very long time listener.
We love both. Thank you kindly. Good.
I wanted to let you guys know about the peach truck. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
No.
My husband and I, we got a lot of internet advertising about this. So there's a truck that delivers mass quantities of peaches up to the north from the south. And you had to order ahead of time. You had to order 12-pound, 25, or 50 pounds. So we ordered 25 pounds of peaches.
Wow. Wow.
So
what'd you
that
do?
kept us busy for a while.
Yeah, what'd you do with them?
So we did peach crumble, peach salsa, peach cobbler, frozen peaches to go in the Sauvignon Blanc. And obviously we ate them too. So
that's a good one.
Worthwhile investment.
Elizabeth, that's a good one. Sangria. People put all this different fruit in sangria, so you have fruit saturated. I know somebody did it with vodka, actually. Fruit saturated in the liquor, and it's really great.
So, Elizabeth, how do you find the peach truck?
So what happened was when we put in our location, it suggested 2 spots for us to pick up.
Yeah.
We ended up picking up in Assembly Row, but we had friends that picked up at the North Shore Mall.
But wait a second, what do you type in? Peach truck? What do you type in to find out?
So if you do peach truck, it'll tell you what, because they come up at like certain allotted days and times. And you do have to order ahead. You can't. I noticed there was someone in line with us who sort of walked up, and they sent him on his way. But I think it was the best money we've spent. My husband and I, who are Northerners, felt like we had never once in our life had a really good peach until we did this.
I am really going to do it. It's called thepeachtruck.com. I just checked it out. Elizabeth, that was great advice.
Thank you.
Make another call soon. Thanks for the direction.
Okay, here's Woody, the UPS driver, who says, this past weekend we went to Carver Hill Orchard in Stowe, picked up peaches and blueberries right off the trees. Nothing like a tree-ripened peach dripping with juices so delicious.
Don't you think they bruise a little bit too easily, though, when they're ripe?
Well, speaking of bruises, we have a little sound from Seinfeld, one of our favorite shows.
Yeah.
In this episode, Kramer tries to return a subpar peach at his favorite fruit store, Joe's, on the corner.
I want restitution.
Restitution? You want restitution? Why should I give you restitution?
Because it's no good.
Once I put that fruit out, that's where it is for me.
But it's still your fruit. You got to stand behind your fruit.
Hey, I stand behind my fruit.
So?
Hey, you get a bad peach? That's an act of God. He makes the peaches. I don't make the peaches. I sell the peaches. If you got a problem, you talk to him.
You know, this whole place is going downhill. I could have come in here last week with a bad plum, but I let it go.
Well, I got a perfect solution for you. Take your business elsewhere. I don't want your business.
Oh, now you don't want my business?
No, I don't want your business. And at this moment, you're banned from the store. You're banned.
Well, what am I going to do for fruit?
That's a pretty good bit.
Yeah. Olivia in Brookline, thank you for calling.
Hello, Olivia.
Hi.
Hi.
Discussion. I love fruit.
Olivia, we got to put you on hold. Bad connection. We'll get right back to you. Don't go away. Move around your house or wherever you are, and we'll come back to you after the next call.
Robert in Rhode Island says, cantaloupe wrapped in prosciutto, to quote Jim. Otherworldly.
You never had that?
Yes, I have.
Perfect.
It's very good.
Spectacular.
Okay, Bob in Billerica. What do you think, Bob?
Hello. First-time caller, long time listener.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I called to explain how seedless watermelons are produced without seeds.
Oh, please. Thank you.
Or how they are grown. All right. So the gene responsible for producing a watermelon without seeds requires 2 halves. So the plant that is pollinating the other plant has to have half of the gene, and the plant that is pollinated has to have half of the gene. So they have 2 separate, families of watermelons that they grow. One has half A, one that has half B. They keep the seeds that they pollinate for in the same family to produce more seeds for the next generation. But to get the seedless watermelon, they cross-pollinate family A with family B, which then produces offspring that have the seeds that, when planted, the watermelon have no seeds in them.
I was going to say that, actually.
Now, Bob, that was wonderful.
It was really good.
But how do you know all this?
Yeah,
Are
that's
you
a very good
watermelon farmer, or are you just big into watermelon?
So I am big into watermelons. It is my pick. It is what I would have picked if I had. I didn't want to talk too much, but it's my pick for summer fruit.
Okay.
I agree with Marjorie. If it's the time of year that you're going to be picking a watermelon that's fresh and delicious, it's automatically going to be better than the pineapple. So though I'm not morally opposed to it, I would always take the fresh watermelon.
Okay, let me ask you one more question, Bob.
Local farmers,
Bob,
yeah. Sure.
Before you could get all the seedless watermelon, how did you get rid of the seeds when you were scarfing down that watermelon? Did you spit them across the room? Did you put them on your plate? Did you take them out of your mouth in a napkin? What'd you do?
Well, so what I remember as a child is that as I ate it, I would actually keep all of the seeds in the side, one of my cheeks, and then I would spit them all out like a machine gun and see how far I could get them to go.
I can't believe you waited years to call when you're bringing this kind of stuff to the table.
That is great.
That is brilliant, Bob. Thank you.
Bob left them in the side of his cheek
I love
and
that.
then spit them out like a machine
like
gun.
a squirrel kind of thing.
Bob, thank you very, very much.
Like a human squirrel. Bob, thank you. By the way, I can't believe, here it is, anonymous texter. It's crazy. We're doing a Marjorie Love segment, and Jim still won't shut up.
That's right. Well, you know,
I want to show her that I'm into what she picked.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be
I'm into
friendly.
fruit. There's no question. I'm a fruit person. There's no question about it. 877-301-8970. Chilled cubed watermelon drizzled with honey zest of lime, says the texter Jim. Best ever.
Here's a good one. Dan from Dorchester. I can't believe we didn't think of this on our own. I know people don't tend to agree that a tomato is a fruit. It is a fruit, right? Because it's got seeds in it. Is that right? Whatever.
Yes, it does.
But a
have
nice
seeds in it.
tomato straight off the vine during the summer with a little salt and pepper and eating it like an apple, that's my dream. What are you laughing about?
A texter.
Well, wait, did you hear what I said or you did?
I did.
That was a really important text
It's an
about
important point.
tomatoes. Thank you. Dan, I appreciate what you said, even if Marjorie doesn't.
Here's a texter.
Thank you. And she
Jim,
obviously doesn't.
Jim,
Yeah.
considering your condition,
Yeah.
I would go with prunes. That's a good one. Okay.
You know why?
Why?
Because my nickname is what? The Big Dumper. Exactly. I had a listener earlier in the show. And
Eric in Winchester, thank you for calling.
Hello, Erica.
Oh, hi. Thank you so much for taking my call.
And you as well, of course.
I think I'm a third-time caller.
I remember the other two. Go ahead.
I'm just calling to say I agree with Marjorie about summer fruits.
Yeah.
I love summer fruits, and I love them in the summer. Like blueberries to me just do not taste the same any other time of the year.
I agree with that.
But I'm also with Jim on blackberries.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I just don't like the texture of them.
Yeah, what do we do about that? Because do you like the way they taste? Because you don't like the way they taste either?
No, I like the flavor, but I don't like the texture.
That's exactly the. And how can we? So what do we do about that, Erica? Because I love the taste of a blackberry.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
And when I heard you say that, I remarked to my daughter, "There's so many things Jim and I seem to have in common, like Scandinavian film noir."
Film noir, Scandi noir. And blackberries bother our cheeks.
Now,
Same
Erica,
deal. Thank you.
I want to put to you the question of the hour.
Yeah.
When you do eat watermelon full of
That was a
seeds,
good question.
what do you do about disposing of the seeds?
Mm-hmm.
I do spit the seeds out.
You do? At the dinner table
Yeah.
or just when you're in the backyard at a barbecue? Do you spit them right at the table there? Just go for it?
I very subtly, put them on the plate.
Very good.
Can I tell you, you are a fabulous caller, Erica, on every level. Thank you for the call.
Thank you very much.
Shout out to your daughter. Here's Mike in North Carolina. I don't think this is a compliment. Hard to believe that Bob, the seedless watermelon scientist, actually saved this fascinating segment.
Well, some people are into summer fruits, and some people are into summer fruits.
I didn't even want to do this, but this is an important segment.
It's a very important segment.
Because it matters. It's clear that it matters to a lot of people.
That's right.
Summer fruit kind of thing.
We haven't really discussed raspberries, Jim. How do you feel about raspberries?
Well, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the peach truck. Remember that first caller with the peach truck? Mm-hmm. I don't think they're delivering. Could she text us or something? I just went to the website.
Here's one.
And because I wasn't really listening to what Marjorie was saying, I was going to order 12 pounds of peaches for $38.
You don't
but
have
I think
to.
they're done for the season.
Well, I don't know.
What happened?
But Fran says the peach truck is not only great, but you can purchase smaller orders than 25 pounds.
Yeah, 12
she had
pounds,
a
like I said.
dozen delivered by FedEx and then picked up her order in early July in Seekonk from the peach truck.
I don't do Seekonk. Where is Seekonk?
Seekonk is between Fall River and Providence.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, but by the way, that woman said they delivered Assembly Row, which they do, by the way, but they don't anymore this season. So whoever the caller was, who was fabulous, if you have any more insight into what's going on with the peach truck for the rest of the summer, please text us at, what's our number? 877-301-8970.
B from Spencer, Mass. says, best peaches don't need to come from the South. Try for Julian's Farm in Hudson. That's F-E-R-J, like F-E-R, then Julian. For Julian's Farm in Hudson.
Speaking of that, Hannah, our coworker on your staff, I went peach picking in Massachusetts last summer. Delightful, except the trees made me itchy. Throat was fine, though. So, I mean, that's a decent compromise.
Some people have the same problem. Listen to this. When I was in France, my friends who lived there got a kick out of my being surprised by and spitting out the seeds in green grapes. Oh. They chew the grape seeds and swallow, but our American grapes are bioengineered without seeds, so they're not as good for you, Jim.
I was going to say that. I've never had a seed.
Scandal.
In grape. Now, I have to be honest. I have mixed feelings about grapes.
I love grapes.
But, I mean, do you really, like on a regular basis? I like them, like very occasionally. Well, how often do you like grapes?
Well, I'm not much of a cook, as we have discussed. But my go-to summertime hors d'oeuvres with cocktails are cheese, crackers, and red grapes.
Sliced right on top there?
No, you just put the grapes next to the cheese and the crackers.
You know what another good one is? Also healthy? Stick of bacon. You just make up a couple of pounds of bacon. You take a piece, you crisp it, you throw it in there.
Okay, Brian.
By the way, here's another one. Anonymous, barbarians, ! You must chew and swallow watermelon seeds. So that was not an aberration, that person who said it earlier.
And somebody else said, when was the last time anybody ate watermelon at the dining room table? Well, you do sometimes. You might have it for dessert, right? You might have it for dessert. Yeah. Brian Lowell.
You know what I do, and I bring it in, I just like to say this, another good thing about me as a co-host, is I will take a whole watermelon, and I will slice it into chunks and bring it in for Marjorie to share. And you haven't even chosen to mention that, which I resent a little bit. Isn't it great with a little piece, you pop it right in?
Yep, and you brought cantaloupe this morning.
I did.
It was very, very good. Thank you very
Brian
much.
and Lowell, what's
Brian
up?
and Lowell. Hi, Brian.
Hello.
Hi.
It is hot, and I'm thinking about drinking fruit with alcohol.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Now, how do you do it, Brian?
So last night, Jim, just going off what you said with watermelons, cubed it up, put them in the freezer, mixed it with a little lime and a little beer and a little mint. And then blended it up, and it was really refreshing and great. But
say don't go away. Wait, say that again. What'd you do with beer, mint? What was the other thing?
Some lime juice.
That is fabulous.
And frozen watermelon. So we freeze watermelon and you can just like blend it up. But what I do a lot of in my job is fermentation, and we make a lot of vinegars that go into hot sauces. And to make vinegar, you need to make alcohol. So you freeze the fruit. Once it freezes, you can mix it with some water and and ferment it, and then it'll turn into an alcohol. So you can make these like wines that are like 5%. You can dial in the different percentages, but with all this fruit, you can just collect it over the season and make your own punch out of it, but ferment it. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. You can go on YouTube and get it set up and everything.
Before you go, my daughter made the more traditional sangria where you just dump the fruit in. It was fabulous over the weekend. But getting back to that, when you do that frozen thing and then put it in a blender, does it taste like beer?
It tastes like 50% beer, even though it's like a little bit more. But just like it's not. It's like lighter. It's different. It's definitely, but it has some of the beer base there.
I'm going to try it this weekend. That's great. Brian, thanks for the call. A couple of texts that are important. Yeah. Somebody in the audience says the peach truck, who texted about the, whatever. Somebody in the audience was kind enough to say the peach truck is sold out this year in this area. They still have stops in New York. That's unfortunate. Anonymous texter, Jim, I hear Harriet Heineman loves blackberries. Pam in Newbury, head to the Peach Festival. How great is that? A peach festival at Cider Hill Farm in Amesbury, 2 weekends in August. So
now, here's a person who says what they do with their watermelon seeds was put them between their thumb and forefinger and squeeze.
Oh, I did that.
And then the seeds would shoot out.
Shoots. Now, they have, your staff, says they have sound of Jim, that'd be me, trying to foist my cantaloupe this morning on Marjorie. Again, this is always a great risk, but let's hear it.
I want you to taste this cantaloupe. Oh, no, thank you. It's the best cantaloupe I ever had.
That was pretty good.
That was what you did.
I did.
But can we play just one bit of sound before we leave?
No.
Also from Seinfeld.
You going to make Jared wait? Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay,
No,
real
go ahead.
quick.
Go ahead.
This is a man after my heart, of course. This is Kramer from Seinfeld extolling the rare, made-up for the show Mackinac peach to Jerry.
The Mackinac peaches, Jerry. The Mackinac peaches.
Right, the ones from Oregon that are only ripe for 2 weeks
Yeah,
a
that's
year.
right. Yeah, it's going to taste with Newman. I wait all year.
Take a taste.
No, come on, just take a taste.
I don't want it.
Come on,
I don't
just
want it.
take a taste. Jerry, this is a miracle of nature that exists for a brief period. It's like the Aurora Borealis.
Pretty cute.
Okay.
What's your favorite summer fruit, Jared Bowen?
Blueberries.
Oh.
What do you do with them?
Are berries a fruit?
How do you eat your blueberries?
I put them in yogurt every morning.
Oh,
and
how
they're
healthy.
antioxidants. They're very good for you.
That's right, antioxidants.
You're going to be mad at me for not going to the banana farm to get my bananas, Marjorie?
No, there's no banana farms
That's right. You
around
can
here
never eat a
either.
banana because they're
Yeah.
not locally
Well,
grown.
I do still put bananas in smoothies. I
Oh.
must admit. Okay.
What are you doing
What's
there?
on the show there?
So we're going to be talking to Paula Plum, beloved local actor. Yeah, she's directing a play called The Understudy, a backstage comedy. So we'll talk to her about all about backstage life in the theater. Tiffany Jenkins.
Can I interrupt you
Yeah.
1 second?
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to MC the 30th anniversary after party at Symphony Hall for Keith Lockhart.
Yes.
And you remember who came up to us? Paula and her husband.
Yes,
And
they
they were
did.
spectacular.
Richard Snee, yeah.
That we were really. I'm a big fan of hers, and they were great. And so say hi to her for us. We love her. Go ahead. I'm
We
sorry.
will. Yeah, they're both fantastic.
Yep.
Tiffany Jenkins has a new book out. She's a British sociologist who has a new book called Strangers and Intimates, and it looks at this whole notion of privacy over basically 1,000 years and how it has ebbed and flowed and where we are with privacy right now. Obviously, a very compelling time to talk to her with Coldplay Gate, and then countdown to 2026. We'll talk about New Bedford's role in the American Revolution.
Oh, great.
That's a good show, Jared. Thank you very much.
See you, Jared.
Enjoy your blueberries.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Thanks for people that came down to the Boston Public
Thank you
Library.
all. We appreciate
You can keep
it.
up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast, or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow, we're going to be back here at the Boston Public Library with the guy you just saw, GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen's going to be with us, Harvard National Security Expert Juliet Kine with the latest on that horrible shooting in New York City. The new head of the United Way of Massachusetts Bay, Marty Martinez, and then naturalist and author Cy Montgomery will tell us more of the wonderful things animals are capable of doing. And on the ground in Gaza, we'll talk with Olga Sharevko from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs about what is going on in Gaza. We want to thank our crews.
Can I interrupt 1 second? This guy's anonymous, guy or woman. Hey, Jim, to disguise your dislike of the texture of blackberries, just wrap it in liverwurst, which is brilliant, and I will try it, and I say thank you.
Very good suggestion.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay. Special thanks to our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, Nia Harmon, John LeClaw Parker, Jamie Bologna, BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Juan Jose Cadena, our host at the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. The Culture Show with Jared starts as soon as we are done. I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy.
Thanks again for tuning in today. Hope you can tune in tomorrow and keep out of the hot sun this afternoon. Bye.